Chapter 456. Yuqin and Clara's friendship had not yet reached the stage of judging behind her back, so she only smiled. As it turned out, the possibility of finding a luggage cart in the lobby of an office building was almost zero. In the end, the two of them still had to use the simplest method of manual labor to move the food boxes into the elevator. Let's move one batch first. Later, you guard the elevator. I'll move the rest over. All right. By the way, call them, especially Clara. Just wait outside the elevator. It's a waste not to use the labor. Once we arrive at the station, we'll split them up. Yuqin obeyed obediently and really called the other side. Then the two of them picked up the big and small food boxes and walked inside. Since it was a private elevator, not many people used it. They didn't see anyone else on the way. It was also at this moment that Yuqin finally broke the veil. Mr. Luo, I'm very sorry. Luo Nen gazed at the long corridor in front of him. He was a bit helpless. I don't care about that matter. I know. Yuqin lowered her eyes and smiled faintly, her meaning subtle. I can see that. However, I said sorry, because if I didn't do something unnecessary to confirm it from you, I wouldn't be able to feel at ease. That's why I pestered you so much today. Please forgive me. Only then did Luo Nen shoot her a glance. He nodded and said, It's fine. Before Yuqin could say anything else, the elevator in front of them opened, and a middle-aged man hurried out. He was dressed in formal attire, and the style was quite similar to that of Hai Jing. He took off the nameplate on his chest as he walked. Luo Nan's eyes were sharp. He saw that it was the pass to Mingtang culture's floor. As they walked past each other, the man glanced at him. His wristband rang at that moment. He quickly answered the call and answered, Yes, I'm Xiaosha. It's on the first floor of the Tonghui building. Just come over, I'll wait outside. No problem, there's absolutely no problem with the authority. Luo Nan piled up the food boxes in the elevator, and left Yuqin to look after them. Then he went back and moved them a second time. In the lobby, he saw the man with the surname Sha standing straight outside the door like an old doorman. Luo Nan didn't mind. He carried the remaining food containers back to the elevator and tidied things up with Yuqin. They both swiped their nameplates and prepared to go up. A second later, the elevator doors opened again. He could vaguely hear the man surnamed Sha panting outside. I made it. Young master, please. A group of people hurried in as they spoke. The leader of the group cursed. Xia City really has enough paparazzi. Aya. Luo Nan and Yuqin had already paid great attention to their placement, but there were far too many food boxes. The people who came later were in a rush. The person at the front nearly kicked over a food box when they swarmed in. Actually, Luo Nan had already kicked him, but Luo Nan used his interference power to move along with the force without making a sound. The momentum was eliminated, and Luo Nan passed smoothly. He did it very discreetly. In the elevator, be it Yuqin or the person who came in first, none of them noticed. But outside the elevator, there was a strong reaction from the people who were entering one after another. They rushed forward and grabbed the shoulder of the person in the lead, forcefully pulling him back. His aura exploded, stirring up great waves. Luo Nan's mental senses had already covered the newcomer. He had not sensed the ability user earlier. However, in that instant, the person who had reacted first had actually leaped from an extremely ordinary state to at least C+. His explosive power was astonishing, and his ability to conceal his aura was even more impressive. Luo Nan's relaxed mind suddenly went taut. He locked onto the most threatening target in the first instance. He subconsciously extended his arm to block Yuqin behind him. But the scene suddenly changed in the next moment. Someone shouted, Young master, and rushed up in a hurry. It was the person with the surname Sha, who was suspected to be an employee of Mingtang culture. The weather was obviously cold, but this person's face was covered in a layer of sweat. The sweat moistened his dry and loose cheeks. His face seemed to glow faintly, and he was especially excited. What's going on? The elevator is broken. Ha! The person with the surname Sha saw Luo Nan and Yuqin in the exclusive elevator. There were food boxes of all sizes by their feet. He was stunned, but soon he said angrily, What's going on with you guys? This is an exclusive elevator assigned to our company. Non-authorized personnel are not allowed to enter. Luonan didn't pay attention to him. He just cautiously scanned everyone outside the elevator. He saw two familiar faces in a row, and it was inevitable that he was a bit surprised. At the same time, the most threatening person should have recognized him. His solemn expression loosened a bit. He bowed slightly, an apology for his overreaction just now. Mr. Luo, what's the situation? Qin Ikuan, who was outside the building, communicated through the hexa ear. His tone was nervous. The instantaneous explosion of the aura just now had appeared on the security team's monitoring equipment. It was truly a stone that stirred up 1,000 ripples. To put it bluntly, it was a complete mess. It's a misunderstanding. It's nothing. Luonan privately replied to Qin Ikuan. He found it a bit funny. In the end, was it a large-scale event to attract people? Or were the people of Xia City evil? Today's acquaintances were jumping out one by one. It was impossible to stop them. Luonan took care of both sides at the same time. It was inevitable that he would overlook the least important person. He didn't open his mouth, but Yuqin stepped forward and spoke in a soft voice. We followed Director Wu's instructions to go to Ruifeng building to get some refreshments for Sister Weiwei. You know, it's not convenient for Assistant Meng to leave right now. This reason was sufficient. The person with the surname Sha seemed to believe it. You guys are from Mingtang culture? Where's the nameplate? Director Wu had arranged for Luonan to remove his nameplate before leaving to avoid running into paparazzi reporters. Luonan forgot to hang his nameplate on his chest after entering the elevator and swiping his nameplate. He stuffed it back into his pocket. Most of Yuqin's body was blocked behind him, so this person probably didn't see it. The other person's words were quite reasonable. Luonan took out his nameplate and spread it out in his palm, displaying it for the other person to see. The person with the surname Sha simply took the nameplate and blinked. His contact lenses scanned the nameplate, and the relevant information was read out. Authorized by Haijing. And yours. Yuqin copied Luonan and handed over her nameplate. The person with the surname Sha received it, and confirmed it once more before nodding. It looked like he approved of it. He even revealed a smile on his face. So you guys were brought by Haijing. Since you guys are Haijing's subordinates, have you never asked who their department head is? There was such a thing? Luonan was just about to explain when he heard a loud bang. This Director Sha smashed the side wall of the elevator with force. Which family do you guys belong to? You came in through crooked means? Mountain Creek or BHD? Speak. Luonan knew that things were bad when Manager Sha's expression suddenly changed. The two of them had indeed gone through the back door. They could accept being reprimanded. But Director Sha's words clearly put a label on Haijing. The meaning behind it was quite deep. Luonan frowned. The two acquaintances outside the elevator were watching with cold eyes. He didn't want to engage in a meaningless conflict and make a fool of himself, so he said, "We really were upstairs helping out." Every single bastard says the same thing. Then they do whatever they want to do. Director Sha sneered. Director Wu has a myriad of problems to deal with every day. He only recognizes nameplates and not people. It's not strange that you guys have Haijing supporting you from behind. Everyone knows that Sister Wei has the habit of having morning and afternoon tea. But don't tell me you guys bought all of this for Sister Wei? Okay, you guys don't need to say anything. I'll have Haijing explain things to Director Wu. Director Sha quickly blinked twice and took a picture of Luonan and Yuqin. He raised his chin. Leave Sister Wei's tea and snacks behind. Take the rest out. Be more self-aware, or else I'll call security. Director Sha turned his body after he finished speaking coldly. His arrogant figure instantly bent in half, and the wrinkles on his face piled up. Young He, please wait a moment. We'll be done here soon. Chapter 457. No matter what, Yuqin was born into a wealthy family. Even though she was submissive to Luonan, she was extremely arrogant in her bones. Director Sha was a department head of a management company, yet he was arrogant and bossy. He even spat out the words "get lost." How could she endure this? Show some respect. Miss. Do you think it would be more respectful to let the security guards come and drag you away? Director Shah looked at Yuqin's clothes. Most of them were fashionable items, and her matching was quite good. He knew that this woman's family was quite well off. Normally, he wouldn't have directly shed all pretense of cordiality. But right now he was backed by the young master of the He family. In a few days he would be like a fish leaping into a dragon. What was there to be afraid of? Director Shah held a breath of heroism as he stood in front of the elevator door. He felt more and more at ease. He didn't waste words and directly called for the building's security guards. He finished calling and saw that Luo Nan and Yuqin had no intention of coming out. He wasn't in a hurry. He reached out and pointed at the two. Shameless, huh? Fine. You guys stay here. Director Shah directly confiscated their nameplates and used his authority to lock down the elevator. Only then did he turn around and smile once more. Apologies, young He. I wasn't strict enough with my subordinates. I've made a fool out of myself. There's no reason to reason with these idol-chasing kids. I'll deal with the relevant personnel of the company severely later. Young He, don't let them ruin your mood. I'll have the property management open up a backup elevator. It won't take much time. Young He chuckled outside the elevator. It's fine. Director Shah handled things well. You've thought things through very thoroughly. It's my duty. It's my duty. Young He, this way please. Director Shah relaxed completely when he saw that Young He didn't blame him. He twisted his face and gave Luo Nan and Yuqin a cold glance. He was about to walk out of the elevator when he remembered something. Give me Sister Wei's refreshments. He wanted to be bold and confident, but Luo Nan and Yuqin were disinclined to pay attention to him. Director Shah saw that the security guards had already come over from the other end of the corridor. He was even more fearless. He simply did it himself. He lowered his head and searched through the food boxes on the floor. He had seen the refreshments and food boxes of Ruifeng building before. According to his thoughts, there was only one such high-end custom-made food box in the elevator. He could just take it away if he found it. He believed that this young couple wouldn't dare to snatch it. But when he cast his gaze over, Director Shah was stunned. 1, 2, 3? 3 maroon food boxes specially made by Ruifeng restaurant were neatly arranged at the innermost end of the elevator. The original wood material and the 3-story pavilion's design were exactly the same as the Eastern classical artwork. Director Shah could not help but turn his head and look at young Master He, who was still smiling and watching the show. Could it be that Shi Wei specifically ordered 3 portions to entertain the guests? This was drinking tea, not feeding pigs. So the other 2 were probably bought by the young couple themselves, to give to their idols? The price at Ruifeng restaurant was not low. Which one is Sister Wei's? Manager Shah had no choice but to ask. Luonan shrugged. He was too lazy to even open his mouth. He had to admit that he was partly responsible for the difficulty of moving the takeout boxes. After all, in addition to what Shi Wei's assistant had ordered, there was also Cat Eyes' so-called flowing stone set. In order to show filial respect to his older sister and complete the task of visiting the set, he had bought another set. 2 sets of tea set, desserts, food box, and tea set cost more than 10,000 yuan. Without a doubt, this was the impulsive spending of a nouveau riche after his wallet was full. Director Shah did not care about the nouveau riche. He had seen many crazy fans who would throw money away for their idols. Luonan and the others were not the craziest. He just felt awkward. If this couple didn't cooperate and he took the wrong food, it would be hard for him to avoid being punished by Shi Wei. Plus, he did not forget that Shi Wei's lover was right behind him. Director Shah was a bit anxious. He saw that the security guards had already approached, so his voice grew louder. The tea and snacks were definitely ordered by Sister Wei. You 2 are going to forcefully steal them. 2 people come. Drag them out first. As he spoke, Director Shah moved back to give the security guards room to act. At the same time, he pondered whether or not he should contact Assistant Meng, who was by Shi Wei's side, and ask her about the details of the tea and snacks order. Young Master, he clicked his tongue just as he exited the elevator. It's pretty ugly now that it's developed to the point of pulling and pulling. Director Shah hurriedly turned around. Young Master, he don't worry. We absolutely won't delay you and Sister Wei from drinking your morning tea. Hey you guys. Don't kick over the innermost food boxes. It was rare for him to take care of both sides and still be able to think clearly without a hint of chaos. And for the sake of expressing his importance, he drilled back into the elevator after the security guards restrained Luo Nan and Yu Qin. He bent over to pick up the 3 custom-made food boxes. Young Master He's laughter came from behind him. He could hear that he was quite delighted. This proves one thing. People must live magnanimously. They must live properly. Otherwise, if you play the pig, you will fall into the dung pit. If you act cool, you will be struck by lightning. Director Sha hated himself for touching the food boxes. He bent over, unable to turn around and send out a sincere smile. But his mouth did not fall behind. He praised loudly. Young Master He's words are truly incisive. He had just lifted the food box in the middle when a certain chain of logic in the depths of his brain suddenly snapped. He was unable to connect the cause and effect no matter what. Young Master He's voice continued to enter his ears. That's right. It's this expression. Wait for me to record it and save it as evidence. He, Boss Luo. You chase stars behind my sister's back and hooked up with little girls. This is retribution. You must be bored. The cold and indifferent voice came from the young bastard. Director Sha ignored this sentence. The information in front of him really made him a bit dumbfounded. Sister? What sister? Director Sha maintained his bent posture and froze on the spot. However, his thoughts were like a kite that had lost its string. It spun crazily in the vortex and could not find its direction at all. In this chaotic state, Director Sha vaguely knew that the security guard he had called had retreated. Young Master his bodyguards and followers, who had exited the elevator earlier, had rushed in again. Due to the existence of the food box, the place to step was relatively tight. People were squeezed and people were pushed against each other. Director Sha bent over, so the area he occupied was a little large. Someone knocked on his spine twice. It was Young Master Stand up straight. Don't get in the way. Oh my God, I'm going to collapse. Director Sha did not know how his spine, which was as soft as noodles, was supported. When he straightened his body, he saw Young Master smiling as he put his arm around the shoulder of the bastard fan. The latter was pushing him away with a cold expression. Young Master was not annoyed at all. On the contrary, he laughed out loud. Don't mind me, don't mind me. I'm flattered that you brought tea and snacks for our Xiaowei. In the future, I will absolutely not create any obstruction between you and my sister. That's good enough, right? Such intimate words and body language made Director Sha's face turn into a bewitching neon rainbow in the red light district. It was ever-changing. In the end, it was completely cut off and turned into a patch of black ash. When things reached an extreme, they would move in the opposite direction. At this moment, years of social instincts dominated everything. Director Sha's face suddenly burst into a smile. Sorry. This. His instincts were still flawed. Director Sha's mind suddenly went blank. He had forgotten the surname of this most important person. Donglu kindly reminded him. Call him Boss Luo. Don't look at his tender face. He's a ruthless character who can order my sister around. Hey, stop squeezing. Otherwise, if only one of us goes down, we won't be able to live. In an instant, almost everyone's gaze fell on Director Sha's face. I don't want to live. I don't want to live. Chapter 458. Donglu, temporarily unemployed, a vagrant. The elevator went up quickly. Young Master introduced himself. He looked humorous, friendly, and elegant. It was as if the scene of him hugging his shoulders and laughing strangely was all a dream. Hello, Young Master Yu Qin extended her hand and lightly shook Donglu's hand. Luo Nan gave a simple introduction according to etiquette. Yu Qin. Classmate. Actually, the relationship was a bit more complicated, but Luo Nan was disinclined to explain it to Donglu. Hello, classmate. You have unlimited possibilities. Donglu recovered his mischievous demeanor. However, he stopped there and didn't continue teasing. Didn't he step forward just now to control the situation? He absolutely couldn't let the dangerous person in front of him fly into a rage out of humiliation. Since they had appeared here, there was a high chance that they would continue to cross paths. He was here to amuse himself. There was no need for him to put himself in danger. Oh, and don't clash with the target. At this time, Yuqin's bracelet vibrated. It was by Yu and the others, who were anxiously waiting at the elevator, making a phone call. Yuqin didn't mention the conflict downstairs. She simply said a few words and hung up. He Donglu swept his eyes over the rapidly changing numbers on the panel. He said with a smile, "Many thanks, old bro. You personally brought the takeout. This is a great favor. I'll get Shiwei to toast you a few more cups later. If she has any good friends, I'll introduce them to you first." Luo Nan responded in a lukewarm tone. It was just in passing. No need to be polite. Though Luo Nan said this, he still gave He Donglu a few more glances. After all, it was gossip about an A-list celebrity. He had just read it with Baiyu. Even if Shiwei was an A-lister, she would not have the guts to cheat in front of young Master Kong Tianhe. This was probably the legendary changing the scene. The atmosphere in the elevator became a lot more natural. He Donglu pointed at the food boxes on the floor and said with a smile, "Then old bro, who are you visiting? Look at this amount. TSK, isn't this too much of a philanthropist? Your brother, am willing to admit defeat." Luo Nan didn't beat around the bush. "My cousin's band is performing tonight. There are also a few new friends I've made." He Donglu was very surprised. Then I really have to support you. Her band is Shanxi. She just signed a contract with Ming Tang. She's not that famous. He Donglu's brows jumped. Just signed? At this time? Luo Nan's gaze was focused. Is there something wrong? Brother, it seems like your sensitivity is not high enough. Don't you know which company owns Mingtang Culture? He Donglu didn't intentionally leave him hanging. He quickly answered his own question. The Ancient Castle Financial Group. The Blood Flame Order. He purposely lowered his voice when he said the last word, creating a perfect atmosphere. Ding dong. The elevator reached the 56th floor. The atmosphere lightened a bit, but He Donglu was able to see Luo Nan's tightly furrowed brows as he wished. He spread his hands. So you understand. Speaking of which box is Shiwei's? I'll just bring it over. The middle. Luo Nan responded subconsciously. Thanks a lot. Speaking of which, He Donglu was quite ostentatious. Apart from the old driver bodyguard that Wang Yao had seen in Ocean Sky Cloud City, there were still 5 or 6 attendants. Naturally, there were people taking his place at this time. The elevator door opened, and He Donglu walked out with a beaming smile. In the next moment, his eyes lit up. Hey, didn't I say that Ming Tang's resources aren't bad? You guys are that long-legged good-looking group? What's your name again? All the members of BHD were gathered outside the lift. Originally, he was waiting for his family's pastries and snacks. Who would have thought that when the elevator opened, a playboy would come out? They couldn't help but be a bit stupefied. Luckily, the housekeeper, Shui Yuan, was well trained. She counted to 3. Then the 3 sisters bowed at the same time with a smile. Hello, we are BHD. He Donglu chuckled. His playboy temperament flared up. He instinctively reached out his hand, wanting to touch the face of Clara, the most good-looking of them all. But his hand was halfway there when he felt an inexplicable chill on his back. He cursed inwardly and could only lift it up. He tidied his own hair and turned around. There are quite a few people here in Mingtang that I like. I suddenly have an idea. Brother, let's join hands. We can talk about the capital operation. I'll give you 20% of the shares. You just need to help me grasp the timing and see when it's good to strike the bottom. Luo Nan stared at him. Tian Bang is a member of your military. He's even in the Coastal Defense Force. Tian Bang isn't that vulgar. As for me, my position in the He family isn't that high. You, on the other hand, can ask my sister and your secretary about the progress. He Donglu extended his hands and bumped fists. Our appetites aren't that big. Even if they beat our brains out, it won't hinder us from picking up girls. Cough, earning money. Luo Nan shut his mouth and didn't say anything. He didn't feel like continuing this topic. He Donglu shrugged his shoulders and turned around very straightforwardly. Thank you again. Come back and have some tea later. At that moment, he led a group of bodyguards and followers and swaggered away. Luo Nan stared at Luo Nan's back. He felt that Luo Nan seemed to be close to him, but Luo Nan's mouth was full of lies. Luo Nan was filled with dissatisfaction towards Luo Nan. This was very normal. With He Donglu's family background, there was absolutely no need for him to stick his face to an ability user. Not to mention that night at Ocean Sky Cloud City, when this person was being domineering, when he was forcefully suppressed by He Yuan. Kitty. Any man would feel aggrieved after such an experience. Wouldn't it be a joke if they became the worst friend the second time they met? He Donglu seemed to have noticed Luo Nan's line of sight. He turned his head and waved at Luo Nan before he turned the corner. His smile was brilliant. After entering the passageway corridor, He Donglu's smile didn't change. He pressed the secret communication button on his wristband to talk to the bodyguard beside him. Speaking of which, how about me and that kid's older sister go for a while? It should be easy to play rock and roll. What's this called? Courtesy demands reciprocity. Don't you learn this from my sister? The bodyguard didn't want to get involved in this topic, but out of professional considerations he still responded. Right now he has a security team by his side. We have people in there. Holy crap. Old C, when did you become sinister? Luo Nan has always been a target that the military has been trying to control. It was Miss Yin who arranged for people to be placed there. It was for protection and for precaution. He Donglu said unhappily. I know that this fellow is very dangerous. But can't you be a bit more straightforward with your words? The bodyguard, Old C, organized his words before saying, Luo Nan in the inner world has the highest evaluation of AB+. In the military's evaluation, he has an A, and in the judgment of the Xia City government, he has a red, meaning that he is extremely dangerous. Hold on. He Donglu interrupted Old C's words. He was a bit annoyed. The military and the government's judgments are out? When did this happen? Why are they still being raised? Just last week. Old C explained seriously. In terms of individual combat strength, Luo Nan's performance isn't all that outstanding. There are plenty of people in this world who can suppress him. But the key problem lies in the fact that he relies on tools like the Flying Devil Ray. He is an infrasonic array that can move at will. His destructive power towards civilians and conventional troops is comparable to that of extraordinaries. In addition to his unfathomable and profound level of mental senses, and his young and emotional mental state, his degree of threat within Xia City and its surrounding regions has nothing to do with distance, interpersonal relationships, or division of power. Therefore, I suggest that young master he should maintain a distance with him in front of and behind of people. Old C wanted to say distance with this last sentence, but he felt that it was ambiguous. He hesitated for a moment before changing his words. Chapter 459. Discretion. Old C's words had more or less bruised He Donglu's self-esteem. He grinned. Isn't he relying on that devil ray? How about this? I'll buy it and take it home to steam and braise it. Of course, these were words spoken out of anger. However, Old C's reply gave him another blow. The Xia City branch has already purchased that Flying Devil Ray last week. It's just that it's being nurtured there. This is an important reason why the city government and the general staff have updated their judgment. Motherf **Ker. Leaving it there is disgusting? He Donglu sucked in a breath of cold air. He knew very well that the Xia City branch was fishing in this manner. They were fishing specifically for big fish like him, who harbored evil intentions. As for purchasing it in advance, it was even more reasonable. Of course the Xia City branch was happy to see a threatening and intimidating existence comparable to an extraordinary. Especially since Luo Nan was still so young, easy to control, and easy to train. This favor was enough to make the kid shed tears of gratitude for several years. Oh, looking at the time, it just so happens to be after Tianbang's torment. Humph, using an A-rank dangerous individual to offset the impact of the incident and return to the old balance of power. He Donglu curled his lips. fully joining the special power of the ability user organization, maintaining the dynamic balance between the military and the capital power, and allowing the entire society to maintain its upward force like a bamboo dragonfly. Isn't this the ideal state of the extraordinary era that my sister wishes for? TCH, if she wants to do politics, then what is she doing outside? No matter what her background is, she is now surnamed He. She is of the blood of the He family. As long as she makes up her mind, she will fight her way through the military. Perhaps the Air Force will be hers in the future. It's better than letting someone else take over. Old C spoke softly, using the extraordinary as the handle, using the military and the capital power as the rotor. Even though the power is meager, it is enough to allow civilization to rise in the sea of stars and stand alone in the universe. What did you say? He Donglu didn't hear it too clearly. Old C shook his head, returning to the bodyguard's usual silence. He Donglu had already arrived at the door of the suite. He pressed the doorbell, but then he thought of something. Everyone says that kids' sensing ability is super strong. At this distance, it's most likely possible. Fuck. The door to the suite opened. He Donglu had a belly full of anger. He directly bypassed Assistant Meng and went inside. Shi Wei was bored to death in the living room. When she saw He Donglu suddenly appear, she couldn't help but burst into a pleasantly surprised smile. Next, she lightly hugged him with Western etiquette. If it were in the past, He Donglu might have directly made his move. But now, when he thought of the pair of incorporeal eyes watching his every move, he couldn't help but feel apprehensive. After a light hug, they separated. Attendant number 1 took advantage of this moment to place the auspicious Abundance Restaurant's custom-made food box on the tea table. He Donglu pursed his lips. I ran into a little demon running errands on the road, so I brought it over for you. These words were meant for someone to hear. His mouth was taking advantage, but He Donglu was actually depressed in his heart. The worst part about dealing with an ability user like Luo Nan was this. As long as the core of Luo Nan's power wasn't truly shaken, then Luo Nan could forget about taking any substantial advantage. Luo Nan would have to risk being killed at any time. Shi Wei kissed him lightly on the corner of his lips. Let's have morning tea together. What do you want to eat? Shark's fin, He Donglu responded expressionlessly. Shi Wei was stunned. He Donglu couldn't help but sigh in despair when he thought about the sudden change in the program he was currently arranging. He patted Shi Wei's slender waist and sat down on the sofa. He closed his eyes and rested. Shi Wei was an A-list female star in the outside world. She had countless fans, but in front of a young master like He Donglu, she still very consciously put herself in the position of a canary. She obediently opened the food box, preparing to brew tea to receive He Donglu. Attendant number 1 took the opportunity to take credit for his performance. Young Master I'm going to go connect with old Sha and organize the information. Then there won't be a day for the event. Halfway through his words, he saw He Donglu suddenly open his eyes and stare coldly at him. It was as if he was looking at an idiot or even a dead man. Ho, young Master He Donglu wanted to throw something at him, but when he saw the pillow on the sofa, he felt that this fellow was taking advantage of him. He could only grit his teeth and say, "It's already 100 years of the Information Society. You still need to run to the scene when doing a project. Don't think that I don't know what you guys are thinking. Go. Don't stay here." Attendant number 1 had a stupefied look on his face. He Donglu let out a long sigh. His head and shoulders leaned back on the sofa. He was too lazy to speak again. This was another reason why he hated ability users. They completely exceeded the limits of a normal person's thinking. As long as they were willing, perhaps there were no secrets in this world to speak of. At this time, He Donglu looked at his attendants and felt vexed. He couldn't say anything. He could only wave his hand. I'm going to rest. Get lost. Hurry up and get lost. The attendants were at a loss of what to do. Did he want them to do something? Or was it something else? He Donglu became more and more worried when he saw the ignorant appearances of this group of people. He was truly worried that this group of people would speak without restraint once they left the door. They would spill everything about that matter. If some unforeseen event were to happen, Then he could forget about raising his head in the circle of Xia City in the future. Old C, I'll stay at Shiwei's place for a while. I'll give you a vacation. Bring them downstairs. Get some exercise. Young master he. You don't need to worry about safety. With a certain someone here, if something were to happen to me, would he still have the face to see my sister? He Donglu had really gone all out. He had to hide that matter no matter what. He then sent a text message to Old C, teaching him how to explain things to his attendants. Just like this, aside from He Donglu, the group of people came in majestically. They left with their heads and faces covered in dirt. They were all baffled. They turned out of the passageway and just happened to bump into Luo Nan and the long-legged good-looking guy. They were carrying food containers and were just entering room 5621. Normally, the group of attendants would certainly say a few flowery words, but right now, they were in no mood at all. Don't forget that Old C was still watching silently from the side. Boss Luo, who made He Donglu look at him in a different light, was right in front of him. They were able to be He Donglu's long-term attendants. At the very least, they had the eyesight to keep their mouths shut and speak less. This was the best choice they could make. Old C nodded toward Luo Nan in greeting. The attendants copied him one after another, and the two groups brushed shoulders. Who are these people? Baiyu had question marks on her head. She saw them come out from the sealed passageway, and behind them was the only luxurious suite on this floor. Her eyes were filled with sparks of gossip. She turned her head and saw that Luo Nan was deep in thought. He didn't respond, so she turned her gaze to her best friend. Xiener, you just came up with them. Yu Qin's elegant eyebrows furrowed slightly. She bit her lower lip, unwittingly biting it until it turned white. If she didn't do this, she wouldn't be able to suppress the trembling that suddenly erupted within her body. The source of the stimulation wasn't He Donglu. It was Luo Nan who was beside her. Her sensitivity in this area far surpassed everyone else present. She was able to more or less guess the answer from the limited information such as He Donglu's surname, the military, and so on. Kong Tianhe? Only now did she discover that her evaluation of Luo Nan's status had actually increased. It was raised to a nearly untouchable level. This made her a bit at a loss as to what to do. Therefore, she didn't hear Baiyu's question at all. She just walked straight in. Shui Yuan and Clara did the same. Baiyu still couldn't get an answer. She couldn't help but pat Luo Nan's arm. Why are you all so mysterious? Boss Luo, who in the world was that guy? He had a cheeky smile on his face, and he seemed to be Sister Weiwei's boyfriend? Luo Nan could only chuckle when he saw her expectant gaze, ready to receive some gossip at any time. He carried the two flowing stone-set food boxes into the room, but he had second thoughts. It wasn't good to leave these refreshments for too long. He should go take a look at Moya's place. He turned around and was about to leave, but Baiyu had already grabbed the food boxes like a lackey. Boss, Bai Xiaoyu is here to serve you. I don't need you. Luo Nan wanted to take the food boxes from Baiyu's hands, but this little girl nimbly dodged to the side. She rammed through the door first. Clearly, he wouldn't be able to get a reply from the food boxes if he didn't bring out a sufficient amount of gossip. Cat Eyes, who hadn't left the room this entire time, chuckled twice. But she didn't say anything that would make Luo Nan feel even more embarrassed for the sake of the expensive flowing stone set. Luo Nan shook his head and left the room. Baiyu stood outside with her head held high and her chest puffed out. She assumed the posture of an orderly soldier. Give it to me. Baiyu put the food boxes behind her back. She looked like she was dying. I just wanted to ask and satisfy my curiosity. The identity of Sister Weiwei's boyfriend is a huge piece of gossip. Don't worry. I absolutely won't post it on the internet. So if I don't mess around this time, you'll turn around and post it on the internet? Luo Nan discovered that he had underestimated Baiyu's gossipy nature. He found it harder and harder to spit it out. Just as he was about to say something, the door to room 5621 opened. Yu Qin stood at the door and spoke softly. Boss, do you need help? Don't tell me you can help hold Baiyu down? Luo Nan waved his hand. Go rest. Yu Qin didn't say much. Her gaze lingered on Luo Nan's face for a moment. Then she bowed and retreated behind the door, gently closing it. Bai finally saw the subtlety of the relationship between the two when she saw this scene. Sienna has such an arrogant temperament. Why is she so docile and obedient to you? What I mean is. Luo Nan was pondering over how to deal with this little gossip bug when he sensed something. Manager Sha, whose face could emit neon lights, had already come up in the elevator. She was headed for Shi Wei, but she saw Luo Nan and Bai messing around here when she turned the corner. Clearly, she jumped in fright. She hid on the other side of the corner, sneakily observing. Luo Nan's thoughts spun in succession. He combined this with He Donglo's strange behavior, and couldn't help but have a few more thoughts. He looked at Bai Yu. The words that came out of his mouth had a subtle change. It's because of her family's company. This was an unexpected answer. Bai Yu couldn't understand it at all. Luo Nan revealed the truth of the matter. Her brother stole a woman and offended me. He's afraid that the company will go bankrupt, so. Are you serious? Bai Yu seemed to be listening to a novel. Luo Nan shrugged. In any case, Yu Zheng isn't a smart person, right? Luo Nan felt that it was very interesting to see Bai Yu's adorable expression. He suddenly had an impulse and reached out to pat her cheek. Bai Yu stood there stupidly. Her eyes swiveled a few times before she suddenly cried out, "Manager Sha." Her voice lingered in the air as she slammed into the door with the food box in hand. She was like a scurrying little rabbit. Chapter 460. Bai Yu rushed through the door and nearly bumped into Clara. What stopped them were the two large food boxes in front of them. Bang! Both of their arms were numb from the shock. "What are you doing?" The two spoke in unison. Clara switched the hand holding the food boxes and gently flipped her hair. "I can't let the seniors wait too long. I'm going to deliver the food." Bai Yu curled her lips. "Seniors? Which seniors are you talking about? Your popularity really makes my heart beat like a drum." "Screw you. Why did you come back? Where's Radish Silk? If you bring the Flowing Stone kit back, what will he use to visit?" So stupid." Bai Yu scolded herself. Her voice dropped an octave in an instant. "Butcher. Butcher is outside." Bai Yu turned her head as she spoke. She saw that there was no sound outside. Only then did she realize. Oh no, that guy must have been caught. Bai Yu wanted to open the door and go outside, but she was grabbed by Shui Yuan, who rushed up from behind. Then she turned on the security visual system. Within the visual range of the system, the hallway was empty. Not a single figure could be seen. Not a single voice could be heard. Where is he? Maybe he was dragged to the security office? He's not a thief. But. Yeah, that's true. Though she said this, Bai Yu thought of Luo Nan's fingers slapping his face twice. The warm touch seemed to have lingered for quite some time. Her face was a bit hot, but she couldn't help but worry. Would he really not be treated as a thief? "I'll go out and check things out." Clara adjusted her breathing and raised her morale. "Is that okay?" Shui Yuan couldn't make up her mind. She turned to look at the others. Yu Qin, who had been following Luo Nan closely, was in a daze for some reason. Teacher Cat Eyes, who had the highest status here, was drinking tea with a smile. She didn't care about anything else. Shui Yuan seemed to realize something when she saw this scene. There seems to be no problem? Clara didn't care at all. I have a valid reason. Though she said this, she still used the visual system to carefully check the situation outside. Only then did she open the door and go out. Bai Yu wanted to follow, but the image of Luo Nan's finger just now flashed in her mind. After hesitating for a moment, he was already a few steps behind. His courage instantly dropped. He could only stick his head out from the crack of the door and watch Carola pass through many doors until she reached the corner of the corridor, and then stay there. After a while, Clara held the food box and bowed. "Hello, Director Sha. It's over." After that, Clara, who had turned a corner, had obviously taken a big detour. She was practically sticking close to the base of the wall to escape. It was obvious that Manager Sha was still there. As for why he was staying there, the answer was very obvious. A few seconds later, Clara sent a message. "Don't come over, the butcher's smile is so scary." Bai Yu immediately replied, "Where is Boss Luo?" Face the wall and reflect on your mistakes. After that, there was nothing else. Bai stared blankly at the message for quite some time. In the end, her body felt weak as she leaned her head against the door. She was extremely depressed. See, my reaction just now was too extreme. Why would I run? Almost at the same time, Manager Sha wanted to cry too. Why did I overreact like that? He stuck close to the base of the wall. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to stand steadily. The smile on his face had long stiffened, but he didn't dare to change. The child in front of him looked to be 15 or 16 years old. He wasn't as tall as him, and he didn't have a fierce expression on his face. On the contrary, he looked a little wooden. Yet he felt an unreasonable amount of pressure. Even if he was up against the big boss of Mingtang culture, he wouldn't be so indecisive. It was Clara's passing by that gave him a chance to catch his breath. Finally, his brain started to work. It was obvious that Boss Luo had a good relationship with the BHD group. Was she his target? According to his many years of experience, when it came to relationships between men and women, a teenager would be confused, thirsty, and possessive. Hence, they would be relatively complicated. Apart from those who matured early, most teenagers would be impulsive and wouldn't have a particularly heavy taste. But, to be involved in multiple targets at the same time, if he wasn't a veteran, who else could be? But he didn't look like one. Was he good at disguising himself? The type that liked to play around with people's feelings? But the way he flirted with her wasn't like that at all. Manager Sha felt that he was really in a dilemma. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that, with his usual style of doing things, he would be so blind as to offend the son-in-law of Kong Tianhe. Of course, this was just a description. No matter what, Boss Luo was definitely the kind of person he couldn't afford to offend. Since he had done something stupid, he had to make up for it. What could he use to make up for it? He could only use his old profession. As a department manager of an entertainment company, he had many resources that ordinary people were envious of. But compared to a wealthy family like Kong Tianhe, it was a joke. The other party used him for fun. Otherwise, with just a thought, they could turn him into ashes with just a puff of air. Fun was the key word in everything. The best resource he had was none other than the banquet that was going to be organized soon. It was a carnival created by the libertines in the entertainment circle. There were some mysterious elements in it, and it had always been one of the most high-end symbols in the relevant circles. If Boss Luo liked this kind of thing, it would be ideal to do him a favor at little cost. But he still had some rationality left in him. Thousands of people had thousands of faces and thousands of desires. For an old driver who had crisscrossed the entertainment circle, a pool of wine and a forest of meat was what he wanted. But for a beginner who had just stepped into the field of love, he might even feel that it was dirty. There was a high chance that a hasty connection would backfire on one's clever plan before one could fully understand Boss Luo's background. Manager Sha had already thought things through. He would use Hai Jing, Young He, and many other channels to carefully inquire about Boss Luo. He would make plans after comprehensive consideration. But no matter what, he never thought that a terrible encounter would push him to the edge of the cliff. He watched helplessly as Luo Nan walked over. There was a distance of over 20 meters from room 5621 to the corner of the corridor. He had around 10 seconds to ponder over a countermeasure. But during this time, Manager Sha's mind was a field of blankness. It was as if a blackboard eraser had been used to erase the clever tricks that had been cultivated in the entertainment company for decades. It was a complete mess. After meeting Boss Luo, there seemed to be no other effective methods other than repeatedly apologizing and begging. But look at what this Boss Luo said. You didn't do anything wrong. I really did go through the back door. But I really am not some sightseeing fan. I just happened to run into Hai Jing, so I asked him for a favor. I came in to visit. You can go find him to confirm things. Is there something wrong with my brain? Why would I go and confirm things? Manager Sha was 120% sure that he had already offended this Boss Luo to the point of death. Otherwise, why would Boss Luo bother talking to him when he had already flipped the cards? Wasn't Boss Luo enjoying the pleasure of playing with a mouse? Perhaps this seemingly pure and good-natured youth was a psychopath. He had a disguised social personality. Normally, he would bring out this seemingly pure and good-natured personality to socialize with others, but in his heart, he enjoyed the pleasure of toying with the entire society. Yes, yes, yes. It was like this. Right now, the oxygen content in Manager Shah's brain was no longer enough to support his deeper research and judgment. Grasping onto a seemingly reasonable judgment was like grasping onto a life-saving straw. He didn't consider at all that this was an ideal result that he had pushed all the way with his only high-level resources. It was a low-end application of the high-end functions of the human brain. He was deceiving himself. Please wait a moment. Please wait a moment. Manager Shah ignored Luo Nan's strange gaze. He operated on his wristband in a flurry, but the more anxious and flustered he was, the easier it was for him to make mistakes. He tossed and turned until he was drenched in sweat, but he didn't succeed. This time, Luo Nan was truly curious. What are you doing? Manager Shah's operation appeared to be very complicated, and his authority requirements were extremely high. There were a few times where he even had to test his breathing, heartbeat, and so on. It seemed that he was trying to shield himself from abnormal states, such as being under duress. Sweat dripped from Manager Shah's forehead. He wanted to explain, but he couldn't find an entry point for the time being. Right when he was about to die, he suddenly saw Boss Luo turn his head and frown. Whose room is room 5605? What? Oh. Please wait a moment. I'll check. Manager Shah had a bitter expression on his face. He was just about to switch to the verification interface, when a light suddenly flashed in his mind. The relevant memories came back. Lan Lin. It's Lan Lin, the high-quality idol that the company has nurtured for the past 2 years. High-quality idol? Right now, Luo Nan's mental senses had already covered room 5605. He saw this high-quality idol using his skillful and masterful techniques that could be used as teaching material to tease Clara, who had just delivered his takeout. If it wasn't for his companion coming out from the cubicle, Luo Nan would probably be in room 5605, reenacting the teaching video from room 5627. Not even an hour had passed, and the male lead hadn't changed, but the female lead had changed. Moreover, the quality was top-notch. Luo Nan admired him. Your company is really capable of producing people. Luo Nan was really worried about Moya's prospects after signing with Mingtang Culture. Even though the rumors said that all the entertainment companies under the heavens were black-hearted, the feeling of seeing it with one's own eyes was always different. 2 seconds later, Clara escaped from room 5605 in a sorry state. However, the blush on her cheeks proved that she had indeed been teased. This was even more conspicuous on her milky white skin. She was distracted the entire way. She actually forgot that Manager Shah was blocking her way. Only when she reached the middle of the corridor did she see that there was no longer a large food container. She was truly at a loss on what to do. Luckily, Clara's mental fortitude was a bit stronger than Bayu's. She only froze for half a second before revealing a perfect, sweet smile. She instinctively flipped her blonde hair and greeted Luo Nan with her best female charm. She covered herself by sticking to the wall and slipping away. Luo Nan watched her leave. He was deep in thought. New evidence obtained. Manager Shah secretly clenched her fists. There was no need to mention the female companion who had delivered the takeout with her. First there was Bayu. Now there was Clara. This boss Luo had given her an extraordinary amount of attention. Moreover, he had done it very clearly. How did this disguised personality's acting suddenly become so bad? Chapter 461. Manager Shah fell deeper and deeper into the trap of his own logic, but he felt the entire world brighten up. In his days, he actually felt a sense of accomplishment of grasping the pearl of wisdom. He even took the initiative to probe. Boss Luo, are you familiar with the BHD group? I like them quite a bit. Luo Nan had learned these words from Hidonglu. He spoke very casually, but Manager Shah was moved to tears. He had finally found a seemingly reliable entry point. With a topic of conversation and a familiar field, Manager Shah's breathing and heartbeat gradually calmed down. At the same time, he began to do his best. Although this girl group is a bit more experimental in nature, they actually have a lot of potential. Their singing, dancing, and appearance are top-notch among the few batches of people the company has nurtured. The rarest thing is that they have quite a bit of character. They aren't simply selling their public personas. They don't have any particular weaknesses aside from their small number. If they have a character like Boss Luo supporting them in the future, it would be hard for them not to become famous. Luo Nan's gaze returned to Manager Shaw's face. He felt like he was looking at a brothel keeper with a silver tongue. Manager Shaw responded with a humble smile. Or should he say that everything went smoothly? Once he found the right path, even the verification that he couldn't get through would be no problem. Manager Shaw let out a breath of relief, but he raised his mind. This was a gamble. He struggled a few times in his mind, but he finally gritted his teeth and got to the point. Boss Luo, I had eyes but failed to recognize MT Tai. You can scold me if you want. Speaking of which, my position is low and my eye sockets are shallow. I nearly missed out on a character like you. You are a magnanimous person. You will certainly give me a chance to make up for it. Luo Nan looked at him coldly, not saying a word. Manager Shaw summoned up what little courage he had left. He raised his left hand, doing his best to stop it from trembling. A virtual screen lit up, displaying the words Invitation Privileges. This privilege identification code is an entrance ticket to an event. I know that it's easy for Boss Luo to go to this sort of place, but the channels are different. The resources you enjoy are different as well. Luo Nan didn't immediately take it. He just responded absent-mindedly. Is this the one he Donglu wants to torment? It had to be said that torment was an excellent word. Manager Shaw nodded incessantly. Luo Nan chuckled. Your resources are just these before your eyes. I know that BHD is led by Haijing. Of course, there's also Mountain Creek. Manager Shaw was a bit surprised. Boss Luo knows Mountain Creek? Yet the lead singer and drummer are impressive. The lead singer, Emoya, and the drummer, Shuei, were two great beauties. Moreover, they were the domineering type. They were not old, but they were quite philanthropic. Manager Shaw didn't care about anything else. He made promises and the like. No problem at all. Really? Haijing is very protective of Shangxi, right? You know that too? Manager Shaw was really excited. To tell you the truth, there will be a major change in the company in the near future. Whether or not Haijing can keep its rice bowl is still uncertain. Halfway through his sentence, his heart suddenly stopped. Wait, what am I saying? This Boss Luo is obviously related to Haijing. He is most likely an acquaintance. Am I crazy? Luo Nan's voice entered her ears during her moment of panic and bewilderment. Is Mrs. Halder really going to withdraw completely? When these words entered his ears, Manager Shaw shuddered again. Not only did this Boss Luo know about the financial group behind Mingtang culture, he even called Madame Halder by her name. It must be known that he was a mid-level employee of a subsidiary company. It was only by chance that he found out about the true background of the financial group and the name of the true big boss. Even if Madame Halder's influence in Xia City was like a faded flower, knowing was knowing, and her attitude was still this casual. This was F*King level. Manager Shaw's entire body was trembling. Excitement and fear coexisted. Under the surging emotions, the worries that had just leaped out, as well as the thoughts and consciousness that he couldn't figure out, were all drowned out. His thoughts grew more and more fuzzy. He really wanted to have a good chat with Boss Luo. Unfortunately, this sort of matter wasn't something he could comment on. Right now he could only smile foolishly. Luo Nan scanned the words on the virtual screen once more. Finally he raised his hand. Manager Shaw was instantly struck with happiness when she saw this action. She wanted to move her hand over, but her arm was stiff. She could only use her other hand to support herself and carefully stick her wristbands together. Half a second later, the screen of Luo Nan's wristband lit up, revealing a classic DNA double helix structure diagram. Soon, the double helix structure scattered into thousands of meaningless numbers, piecing back together to form a disc-shaped diagram. 3 seconds later, it faded away. Manager Shaw stared fixedly at the screen of Luo Nan's wristband. She let out a long sigh of relief when she saw the garbled diagram appear. She subconsciously groaned, then laughed in spite of herself. It's past. It's past. Luo Nan's face was expressionless the entire time, but his ears jumped a few times. The hexa ear hidden deep within his ear canal transmitted a message the moment the screen of his wristband lit up. It was the intelligent voice of the psychic wave network. Serial number 5357. It has been detected that there is an external reading operation on your social privileges record. The operator is the SCA Supercomputer Level 2 AI, Rank 9. According to the confidentiality regulations, priority is given to data protection. During the protection period, you can choose 1. Unblock after detecting the danger level. 2. Perform multiple levels of encryption. 3. Carry out data camouflage. All of your operations will be recorded in a copy for future review. If the selected operation is forcefully terminated, please contact the relevant person in charge. The intelligent voice ended, and the verification happened to pass. Luo Nan shook his hand, as if he had gained something. Outsourcing verification services to the SCA. This is quite a high-end atmosphere. A thought flashed through his mind, and his gaze shifted to meet Manager Shaw's. He nodded lightly. You've worked hard. 2 minutes later, the door to room 5621 opened, and Luo Nan walked in with his head lowered. Baiyu immediately leaped up and asked, "You're back. Are you all right? Did he make things difficult for you?" "What? Butcher? Did Manager Shaw do anything to you?" Luo Nan shook his head. He just wanted to know the ins and outs of the situation. He didn't make things difficult for me, knowing that Brother Haijing brought me in. When the 3 members of the BHD group heard this reply, their eyes had the expression "keep bragging." Baiyu wanted to ask more questions, but she was pulled back by Shui Yuan. She whispered, "Since it's already in the past, don't get to the bottom of it. There's no harm in asking." Clara pulled her back as well. Men care about their faces. What if we get lectured? No, since we already got lectured, it would hurt our pride to talk about it. Baiyu turned her head and saw that Luo Nan had returned. He found a corner and sat down. His head was lowered, and he had a rather dejected appearance. She hesitated for a moment and finally decided to change the topic. "Hey, didn't you want to go visit them? They're busy right now." Luo Nan used his mental senses to observe the progress of Moya and the others' practice as he conversed with Manager Shaw. He knew that the rare resting window had already passed. He could only wait for the next one. It was almost lunchtime. Luo Nan continued to lower his head after dealing with Baiyu. Actually, most of his attention was still locked onto Manager Shaw. Manager Shaw's life sketch was dim and lightless in comparison within the resplendent living starry sky. Its structure was very simple. It was nothing more than a few lines of starlight. However, if one focused on it and continued to permeate it, one would be able to see a bit more information. In a certain sense, the life sketch was just a window leading to the mysteries of the body and mind of others. One needed to do further observation and the corresponding coding and decoding work in order to obtain more detailed information. The Wraith sign was an expert in this field. It was a demon that specialized in peeking at the minds and minds of others. Its incomparably powerful instincts were enough for it to do many inconceivable things. In comparison, even though Luo Nan had gone through a period of study and grasped some basic knowledge of the mental side, what he could do was very limited. However, Manager Shaw was an ordinary person. His abilities were overflowing, right? Right now, Manager Shaw was in a bit of a daze. He walked in the hallway, swaying back and forth. He bumped into a few people who greeted him along the way, but they were at a loss. His mental state was quite bad. The mental attack just now interfered with the material plane. It squeezed the outer medial temporal lobe of the hippocampus and part of the cortex. There shouldn't be any problems with the operation. Papercut said that this method can destroy the target's short-term memory. Could it be that the attack process was too intense and the aftermath damaged the hippocampus? Maybe I should have used interference from the beginning, blocking the nerve signals. Luo Nan slowly pondered over Manager Shaw's current state in conjunction with his life sketch. His goal was very simple. He wanted to obtain more information from this person while preventing others from discovering anything strange, exposing his existence and inclination. Right now, the ones who were more likely to obstruct his goal were undoubtedly He Donglu and his group. Since they were all in this building, Luo Nan reluctantly monitored them for a period of time. Just like right now, the bodyguard Old C, whom he had met once before, had returned. According to his current pace, he could just meet Manager Sha face to face. Manager Sha was currently in a dazed mental state. How could he hide from others? Turn a corner. Luo Nan's consciousness probed through the window, giving Manager Sha a new stimulation. Manager Sha was still muddle-headed. He just subconsciously moved his legs, took 2 quick steps, and circled around the corner. The elevator door opened, and Old C walked out. The long corridor was completely empty. He didn't detect anything out of the ordinary. He hurried to the room where He Donglu was residing. On the way, Old C passed by a corner that a certain someone had taken a step ahead of him. It was just that he didn't notice it. Manager Sha stood blankly behind the soundproof door in the corner, facing the empty room. How did I get here? Manager Sha blinked his eyes. He just felt dizzy, as if he had just experienced a nightmare. That's right. He really did experience a nightmare in the elevator. Hey, what happened next? It seemed like it was resolved. Room 5621. Luo Nan's head was still lowered as he looked at his open palm. His naturally slightly curled 5 fingers gently gathered the air, but he seemed to be able to feel some sort of marvelous tension. It was like he was gathering an incorporeal soul. The information that came from Manager Sha's life sketch was scattered and subtle. It involved consciousness, memories, emotions, and many other most precise and complex functions. And all of this was in the palm of his hand, allowing him to fiddle with it. Chapter 462. Luo Nan had never used this much strength on an ordinary person before. The information Luo Nan had gathered was quite complicated, but he was confident that he could weave a set of memories that had never existed for Manager Sha within a day or two if he were to continue experimenting layer by layer. As for whether it was logical or not, it depended on the ability of the director and screenwriter, and nothing else. If this method was used in actual combat, it would probably be the legendary illusion technique. He remembered that he had heard of a similar method in his supplementary lessons. He just didn't know if it would still be effective against an ability user. Aside from Manager Sha, there was another group of people that Luo Nan was paying attention to. It's He Donglu's attendants A, B, C, D, maybe it's 1, 2, 3, 4? Anyway, the bodyguard didn't look like a bodyguard, and the driver didn't look like a driver. They were dressed very casually and looked like artists. In the end, Luo Nan was able to guess 30 to 50% of what they were here for, combined with Manager Sha's description. That group of people had already been brought downstairs by Old C, out of the Tonghui building and away from the plaza area. At this time, they were already 10 kilometers away, a straight line distance of about 12,000 meters. Such a distance had indeed exceeded the radius of Luo Nan's omnidirectional observation of the material plane. However, if they were to start from the living starry sky and lock onto the target to carry out a partial detection, it was still too early. It wouldn't be a problem for them to travel another 10 kilometers. Luo Nan was certain that Manager Sha would not be able to dig up anything new for the time being, so he split a portion of his energy to lock onto this group of people. The group of followers were ordered to keep their mouths shut by Old C, and all of them were confused and depressed. Now that they had finally reached the so-called safe distance, how could they hold it in any longer? They all opened their mouths and laughed. Luo Nan was unable to listen for a time, so he simply activated the Hexa-ear's response transfer function to record all of this information. He would sort it out later. Now he was more concerned about the consciousness, memories, and emotions of these followers. The lackeys were all ordinary people like Manager Sha. Luo Nan rarely studied these subjects due to various considerations in the past. Even if he did observe them, he would do so in a way that would not affect the target's normal life. However, through his experiments with Manager Sha, he realized that there was quite a bit of knowledge in this, especially when compared to ability users. He could see even more subtleties. Manager Sha was the first experimental subject, and these people could be considered experimental subjects 2, 3, 4, and 5. They could gather information and conduct research on the mental side at the same time. Luo Nan pondered deeply. He used the external neuron to open the built-in software. He created a new notebook and prepared to make some experimental records. At this moment, someone patted his knee. "Can you raise your head? You're not going to cry, are you?" Baiyu half knelt in front of Luo Nan. She moved her head closer. She was both concerned and gossipy, but this little girl clearly didn't realize what it meant to go overboard. Doll. The team leader of the Snow Garden Academy felt a sense of responsibility as he grabbed Baiyu by the neck and dragged her back. Clara came over to help and whispered in her ear, "What are you talking about? Stop, stop, stop. I'm dying." Baiyu was strangled to the point where her eyes rolled back. Her two legs kicked wildly, and she was caught off guard. She kicked the high heel on her right foot away, sending it flying straight for Luo Nan's skull. "Aye!" The BHD group cried out in alarm, and in the next instant, Luo Nan reached out with his hand. 3 fingers grasped the back edge of the shoe, leaving only his index finger to hook. He straightened his arm and pulled away. At the same time, he raised his head and looked at the trio who were huddled together. No athlete's foot, right? Impossible. Baiyu's face immediately turned red. She didn't know where she got the strength to break free from her team leader's grip. She hopped over on one foot and snatched the shoe away. But because she used too much strength, she nearly bumped into Luo Nan. She had to use her elbow to support herself against the wall in order to maintain her balance. In this position, if Luo Nan were to straighten his back a bit, his head would likely bump into her rather large chest. And if he were to remain motionless, his gaze would be level, and he would be able to see the snow-white waist exposed by the stretch of her back. There was also the waistline of her vest. Luo Nan felt a bit of envy. He had been cultivating with Gym Master Xiao for a period of time, and he had received the reverse nourishment of soul strength. His body was strong and tenacious, far surpassing that of an ordinary person. However, the internal cultivation technique did not focus on the sculpting of muscles. He had yet to train into a clear line of abdominal muscles. He still looked thin and weak on the surface. Baiyu was young, and her body leaned towards the voluptuous type. Clearly, she had put in quite a bit of effort to train to this degree. Since he was envious, Luo Nan couldn't help but give her a few more glances. His eyesight was good. He could clearly see that a layer of red had already appeared on Baiyu's snow-white belly. Oh, the little girl was shy. Of course, Baiyu knew how awkward her current position was. She put on her shoes in a standard flustered manner, and retreated in a sorry state. She nearly sprained her ankle. Fortunately, Shui Yuan caught her from behind. Thoughts of a completely new direction fluctuated intermittently. Beautiful youthful limbs moved closer and farther away. The situation had changed in succession in a short few seconds. Luo Nan could not help but sigh. Baiyu had become extremely sensitive right now. What? What are you sighing for? Shui Yuan and Clara had already given up all hope for Luo Nan to be able to ask such a stupid question. Luo Nan could feel that the little girl had lost her mind from embarrassment and anger. He didn't want to make things difficult for her, so he casually made up a reason. "I'm a bit disappointed. I originally wanted to use the credit of running errands to get an autograph from Shi Wei. But in the end my lunchbox was taken away, and I even ran into that manager Sha." Baiyu no longer dared to speak. Clara was a bit displeased with Luo Nan's bullying of her sister. She curled her lips and said, "You want an autograph, and you say you're not familiar with the entertainment circle?" Luo Nan spread his hands. "My cousin is crazy about her. An autograph can be exchanged for at least 2 sumptuous meals. There's no hope now." Clara deliberately teased him. She flicked her hair out of habit, and even gave him a coquettish look. "We'll sign it to you. But in another 10 years. Poo poo poo. In another year, maybe it'll be worth a lot of money. It won't be a problem to make your brother. And you confused and confused." "Really? Are you sure?" Cat Eyes, who had been brewing tea in the lounge this entire time, finally came out. She held a bamboo tea tray in one hand, and walked straight to Luo Nan's side to sit down. Her movements were quite skillful as she sat down. The tea tray spun horizontally, but the small and exquisite teapot and teacups on it were all stable and proper. Not a single drop of water came out. It was as if she was performing acrobatics. The gazes of the group shifted. Luonan was fine, but the BHD trio and Yuqin gasped in surprise. Clara was a bit emotional. If I had this level of balance and body control, I would apply to the Auckland Academy of Performing Arts right now. I would be an artist when I graduate. Cat Eyes gently and dexterously put down the tea tray. She shot a glance at them. Don't change the subject. Barbie, since you said that you can make the boss confused, then you guys go prepare and give it a try. The BHD trio were all stupefied. It took quite a while for Clara to understand. I'm just saying. It's fine as long as I'm serious. The break time is over. Let's do the last adaptation exercise before lunch. You guys didn't have an audience of the opposite sex before, so you guys weren't able to get good feedback. But now there's a certain someone here. At least the age matches. He's clearly an entertainment illiterate. It's fine as long as he's a normal man. Cat Eyes turned her head to ask Luonan after she finished speaking. Boss, are you all right? Get lost. Then let's begin. Cat Eyes poured a cup of tea down her throat and sighed in satisfaction. You guys have 1 minute to clean up the area. The BHD trio immediately turned into a chaotic mess. Luonan watched Cat Eyes drink tea, thinking that he would be able to get the last treatment. He never thought that Cat Eyes would place the tea tray on the other side of her body. She even called out to Yuqin. You get a cup too, Mr. Luo. There are only 2 cups. He definitely has to display his style. Then I'll go get some refreshments. He won't have any tea. He'll choke to death. Choke your sister. Luonan used a fierce gaze to gouge out Cat Eyes, but she leaned against his shoulder in an extremely intimate manner. She giggled and tilted her head. What were you doing just now? There was no need for Luonan to hide anything from this believer of his who had a deep tendency to self-destruct. He simply described the process of his research. He also wanted to share his experiences. I've never tested this sort of technique on an ordinary person before. I tried it out today. It's quite easy to get used to it. In the past I'm an expert in long-range sensing. I'm not a mind excavator. There should always be a comparison between ability users and non-ability users. Luonan's gaze unconsciously glanced at Cat Eyes as he spoke. If you want to talk about test subjects, there's an ideal one here. Are you thinking about this? I'm saying. Did you know that the BHD group is also a test subject? I just heard Director Shah mention it. Excellent. Now you can experience it for a bit. The prelude to the music rang out. The 3 members of the girl group laughed as they gathered together. They each took their positions. Some were squatting, some were standing, and some were raising their heads slightly. Although the postures they adopted were all different, they had all gone through thousands of tempering. They were the most outstanding and most moving postures. Their gazes were different from the sculptures. The first thing they did was focus on the audience, which was Luonan. The 3 beautiful and cute girls cast their gazes over at the same time. They hooked their gazes and hooked Luonan's soul. Luonan's heart thumped. The dynamic dance music had already begun. As the captain, Shui Yuan's singing was very solid. Her enunciation was clear, and there was a bit of a metallic sound to it. However, Luonan couldn't hear what she was singing clearly. The 3 youthful bodies swaying before his eyes dazzled his eyes. The song and dance of the BHD group didn't have any artistic qualities, but every movement of theirs displayed youthfulness and dynamism. Well, in fact, it just highlighted the beauty and figures of the girls. Only after Luonan recovered from these direct impacts did he notice the lyrics, the song, the singing skills, and the characteristics of each member's temperament. Luonan really was unable to shift his eyes away. Unknowingly, there was an awkward feeling of dryness spreading throughout his body. The feeling was especially intense in certain areas. Cat Eye's voice cut in at this time. Do you see the problem? Luonan wanted to speak, but he was unable to say anything in the end. He could only shake his head awkwardly. Cat Eyes raised an eyebrow, and the topic of conversation changed in an instant. Tisk TK. You only have one good point. Luonan glared at her. He didn't try to conceal it. This is instinct. But I'm not a beast. Ha. Before his voice fell, Cat Eyes clearly blew a breath of air into his ear. The warm, itchy, and numb feeling radiated to his entire head in an instant. What accompanied it was a low and hoarse laughter. If you're worse than a beast, then you're really done for. This was right under the eyes of others. Luonan was shocked at first, but then his fury wrapped in restless emotions and burned all the way up. What the hell are you doing? Chapter 463. Since Cat Eyes and Luonan were shoulder to shoulder, she slid down Luonan's chest the moment she curled up. Her bent elbow struck a vital spot. Luonan's instinctive reaction had yet to subside, but he only furrowed his brows at Cat Eyes' more stimulating actions. He pushed Cat Eyes away. You can see a psychiatrist. Let's go together. Cat Eyes did not care what pose Luonan wanted to take. Her attitude was relaxed, as if she was joking with a close friend. However, the words that came out of her mouth were extremely strange. Did you know? Most of the awakened ones who were still in puberty rarely suppressed themselves. Whether it was psychologically or physically, they had strong stimulations and needs. This was the norm. But now the problem is you can still make it physically, but psychologically, it's a little strange. She didn't give Luonan a chance to refute. Her eyeballs shifted to the other side and she pointed at Yuqin. For example, you should know that, smart girl. All you need to do is crook your finger, and she absolutely wouldn't mind using this sort of method to mend the relationship. That's enough from you. Awakened ones aren't born stallions, okay? Luonan's words were like this, but his eyes unconsciously shot a glance in Yuqin's direction. Right now Yuqin's mind was clearly not on the song and dance. Though she was sitting upright and still, she would send a gaze over from time to time. She was paying attention to the atmosphere of interaction between Luonan and Cat Eyes. Are you tempted yet? Cat Eyes stared fixedly at Luonan. It seemed that she would not give up until she detected the beast gene on Luonan's body. If I don't, then I'm a pervert? Yeah, a different kind of pervert. He's becoming more and more like some people. Some people? Although the statistics aren't complete, based on the current information, a similar situation would fit perfectly with those so-called gods and children of God who became extraordinary so long time ago. Thank you for thinking highly of me. Think highly of me? As expected, you're the one who's feigning ignorance. Cat Eyes moved her face closer once more. Her voice became cold and hoarse. I don't believe that you can't tell, boss. I'm afraid of you. This time Luonan didn't push her away. Instead, he turned his face to the side. The distance between the two was so close that they could hear each other's breaths. People would believe it if they said they were kissing from a different angle. On the other side, Yuqin's breathing unconsciously quickened. Unfortunately, whether it was Luonan or Cat Eyes, neither of them had any thoughts of romance at the moment. Boss, you're too close. Cat Eyes' breath faintly carried the fresh fragrance of tea. However, the meaning behind her words was sluggish and oppressive. Shouldn't a god like you maintain a distance from your believers? Luonan sighed. I'm not a god. But it's a trainee. Therefore you have to constantly ponder, practice, and experiment in order to improve. During this period of time, your followers, unfortunately, such as myself, will undoubtedly become your experimental subjects. You think too much. Luonan felt that Cat Eyes was suffering from paranoia. Right when he was about to have a serious conversation with her, he heard a bang. Bai Yu and Clara, who had switched places in front of him, collided into each other. Their heads bumped into each other, and the sound was painful. The two women hugged their heads and squatted down. Bai Yu was in so much pain that tears rolled down her face. If such a low-level mistake were to happen on stage tonight, the BHD group would probably be fighting for the headlines. However, Luonan and Cat Eyes' exchange postures in such a deranged manner was eye-piercing and heart-piercing. The fact that the BHD trio managed to hold on until now before making a mistake was because they were focused. Luonan pulled a taut face and turned his face away. Cat Eyes acted as if nothing had happened. She just clapped her hands again. Focus a bit. The AR effects on stage are even more chaotic. When the time comes, you won't even have the chance to hug your heads and cry. Continue. The three girls were still in a daze. They just instinctively swayed along with the music and sang along to the lyrics. 6 gazes revolved around Luo Nan and Cat Eyes most of the time. Cat Eyes was not demanding. She just said to Luo Nan, "You see, BHD is just an experimental subject." Their appearance originated from the inspiration of the person in charge that lasted no more than 10 seconds. With this as the skeleton, a team was built, and the 3 of them were found one after another. Right now, the experiment has just begun. The person in charge is already impatient to let them go on stage. Right now, their biggest problem is that they don't have enough people. For example, on tonight's stage, there will inevitably be a visual blank. Their singing skills are far from being able to support a stage of 1 million people. So they can only use backup dancers or large amounts of AR images to fill in the blanks, creating a situation where the host is usurped. Failure is inevitable. Luo Nan raised an eyebrow. "You're a teacher. Is it really okay to curse your own students?" A wondrous smile formed on Cat Eyes' lips. This isn't the first time BHD has failed. Their debut song lacks any special characteristics. They haven't even made a splash. They've failed to make it onto the charts. They don't have any endorsements to this day. Mingtang Culture's internal allocation of resources is also very stingy. In the next 1 or 2 years, the company will probably make adjustments to them in terms of positioning and personnel. They will try them one by one. But the patience of a businessman is always limited. They will either find the right path and become successful and famous, or their team will disintegrate and find their next home. Their path to stardom will be dim and even abandoned. Having said this, Cat Eyes turned her head to look at Luo Nan once more. "You can say that you have some friendship with them. If you want to send them some words of encouragement, what should you say? Work hard. TSK. What in the world are you trying to say?" "I'm sorry, but the word work hard doesn't play a decisive role in determining their future. The one who truly controls them is Mingtang Culture's artiste department. They are the person in charge who single-handedly forged them. The direction drawn by these people is the most crucial factor in the survival or destruction of the BHD group." "Boss, is this my future destiny?" Luo Nan wanted to refute her, but just as he opened his mouth, the word stuck in his throat. Right now he was looking straight into Cat Eyes' pupils. At the same time, he was grasping her life sketches and the structure of her body and soul. He gently plucked at the crisscrossing chains between them. In this state, even the slightest change in Cat Eyes could not escape his grasp. Could it still not be called fate? "I've been flipping through nearly all the information related to the leaders of the order for some time now. The growth of nearly every god is established on a foundation that goes against human nature and the common sense of society. Your understanding of the world is on another level." Cat Eyes reached out her hand and gently touched Luo Nan's cheek. Her seemingly gentle movements were actually more like touching a cold, hard, and dignified statue of a god. There was observation, there was fear, there was inquiry, but there was no emotion factor between people. The will of a god is immeasurable. Destiny is the same. But I can tell you clearly, boss. I don't want to meaninglessly sacrifice myself for those inconceivable reasons. If I can't escape in the end, I'd rather die by the hands of a normal man. I understand the cause and effect clearly. Luo Nan frowned at first. Several seconds passed before he suddenly broke into laughter. Was this a prayer? No, this was clearly revenge. This was a declaration of war. Cat Eyes had avoided the pointless direct confrontation. Instead, she vowed to be a stumbling block on his path forward. She would do everything in her power to destroy his path to godhood. From the looks of it, her weapon was the so-called desire of human nature. Up to you. Luo Nan really wanted to emphasize once more that he never had any intentions of becoming a god. Cat Eyes' confrontation was meaningless. But there was no meaning in saying these words too much. His mind spun, and his train of thought traced back to the source. He suddenly understood why Cat Eyes suddenly felt fear in her heart. He flipped open his palm and gently clenched it twice. He spoke softly. "It's because of Manager Shah, right? That person isn't a good person." Cat Eyes responded unhurriedly. "There is no right or wrong in front of a god." But there are also people who are close and distant, right? That fellow has ideas about BHD and even my sister. There's nothing wrong with me searching for information from his body. You're thinking too much. Anyway, doesn't your words prove that my research methods are very effective? The smile on Cat Eye's face suddenly froze. Luonan laughed out loud and leaned his body back against the wall. He adjusted his posture slightly, making his sitting posture more comfortable. Then he closed his eyes. Even though Cat Eye's supple and fragrant body was leaning to the side, it did not affect him from entering a state of concentration once more. The living starry sky unfurled. Manager Sha, lackeys 1, 2, 3, and 4 all made special marks. Luonan continued to ponder over the marvels within. He bluntly used Cat Eye's, a believer, as a reference. Time passed bit by bit, and Luonan really did abandon all the changes in the external world. It was only past noon when his biological clock, formed over the past few days, reminded him that he needed to do an afternoon class. Only then did he restrain his mind, adjust his breathing, and enter a meditative state. It was unknown when he had entered a state of sleep, but Luonan's subconscious was still operating, still observing the starry sky. Moreover, the research results of Manager Sha and other ordinary people unconsciously entered his knowledge judgment system, constantly refining the relevant conditions. In his days, Luonan had a dream. It was like he was shaking a sieve, but it was also like he was operating a laboratory centrifuge. He slowly separated and filtered the millions and millions of stars of the living starry sky from various levels, forming a fuzzy hierarchical division. There were some gaps that did not belong to the scope of this research, but he could fill them in. There were still a few levels above ordinary people and below the awakened. Some had just begun cultivating, like Xie Junping. Some had already cultivated but had yet to awaken, like Worker Zhai. They could all be used as reference objects. Xie Junping was one of his believers. Worker Zhai had discussed the feeling of using the condensation ring to accelerate the awakening with Xie Junping many times during this time. The relevant information was ready-made. It was just that Luonan rarely considered using the hierarchical division method to carry out the division. Actually, the train of thought was ready-made. Wasn't the framework of the social format just like this? In the past, Luonan only looked above. He never looked below. Now there were finally layers upon layers of stairs that slowly extended down from the suspended region. Oh, there was also the technique of distinguishing the root receptacle, root nature, and root trigger taught by Gym Master Xiao. It was extremely appropriate to use it here. Many subtle details could be seen. Gradually, the void was divided into layers, and the stars returned to their positions. Although the overall structure was still rough and chaotic, there was a vague distinction between the various stairs. After all, the differences between ordinary people, non-awakened ability users, and awakened were quite obvious. It was practically impossible for a situation of confusion to occur. Luonan's mind shook, and he instantly woke up from his half-asleep state. His eyes opened. Chapter 464. Their gazes met, and the other couldn't help but narrow his eyes. He shifted his upper body slightly and frowned. You have a fierce gaze. You must have gotten into a lot of fights in the dojo recently. Emoya. Luonan recognized his sister. He then looked at his wristband. It was already 1:45 a.m., very close to the appointed time for breakfast. Where's your manners? The distance between the two was too close. Luonan still dared to call her by her name. Emoya reached out her hand to pinch his face out of habit. Though Luonan had lowered his head to look at the time, he nimbly tilted his head to avoid the attack. Then he relied purely on the strength of his waist and legs to stand up in this extremely narrow space, jumping out of Emoya's torment domain. Emoya's eyes lit up. You're like a living monkey. You've grown capable. I'm all right. Luonan curled his lips. If it weren't for the fact that he was far too familiar with the aura of his family, and that Cat Eyes, Yuqin, and the others had stayed at a safe distance for a long time by his side, leading to his lack of vigilance, Emoya wouldn't even have had the chance to get close to him. Also, thank you for your contact lenses. Luonen wasn't prepared to get entangled with Emoya over the issue of sibling status. He looked around and saw that Haijing was here as well. He raised his hand in greeting and said casually, "Are you done with practice?" Haijing chuckled. "Which one are you talking about? Do you want to watch me sleep?" Luonen suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. He turned his head and saw the BHD trio. Shuiyuan had her head buried in her clothes, Clara was admiring her nails, and Baiyu was leaning against the enormous wall mirror. She stared blankly at the ceiling. It was unknown where her mind had wandered off to. Though the things they did were all different, there was one thing that was extremely synchronized. No one paid attention to Luonan. The atmosphere within the practice room was clearly low. Not good. He had offended someone. That's right. Not only was he flirting with the instructor in front of the gorgeous and dynamic song and dance, he could even openly sleep. What did he think of the three young and beautiful girls? Even if she doesn't hold a grudge, she still has to sort out her emotions, right? Luonen wanted to give a few words of explanation, but he discovered that he was simply unable to speak. He wanted to save the millions and millions of citizens of Xia City and prevent them from being harmed by the mutant virus. This was a great and honorable reason, but he needed people to believe it. There was no other way. Luonen could only choose the simplest and crudest method. "I'm going out to make a call." Making a phone call was an excuse, but contacting Peony was a matter that could not be delayed. Luonen activated Ink's perspective as soon as he walked out the door. He determined Peony's position. The other side seemed to be the lobby of some high-class restaurant. Ink couldn't enter, so he could only see Peony's back through the street view glass. The latter was sitting peacefully on the sofa in the lobby waiting area. At this hour, was he taking a nap after the lunch? Luonen didn't think too much about it. He directly transmitted the information. Suspected target discovered. Location outside Becky's coffee house on the west side of the plaza. Peony clearly leaned back and shot back with annoyance. "Mr. Partner, I'm on a date. I'm going to see my family, okay?" Forget it. Maybe this is God's will. Say it again, where is the target? Luonan saw that Peony didn't seem to be joking. He could not help but hesitate. "Did I really disturb you? Then let's wait. Don't waste time. If you have something to say, say it." Peony took a deep breath, stood up, and looked around the hall. She seemed to still be reluctant to leave, but in the end, she still chose to walk out with large strides. Perhaps it's fine to follow Mr. Ink, right? An enormous crow flew across the plaza. It was quite eye-catching. Fortunately, Luonan's target was in the outer perimeter. There were many people in the plaza, and the environment was complex. For the first time, he explained a few characteristics of the target in advance. Female. Early 20s. She wears a brown long windbreaker. She should be a university student in the parade. There are quite a few people around her. She might be drinking right now. Her emotions are quite agitated. Peony walked forward as she listened. But her feet suddenly stopped in the end. She's in the third stage of infection in the parade? That's a ticking time bomb, okay? I said it. It's just a suspected target. She shouldn't be in the third stage. Not yet. It's not like she's a mutant. You're saying that she's in the second stage? The suspicion in Peony's words could be clearly heard even from 2 kilometers away. I'm not sure, but it's really hard to classify this person. Luonen didn't explain further because he had been out on the phone for too long. Haijing opened the door and stuck his head out to remind him. You lock onto the target first. I have a bit of a situation over here. I'll contact you later. Okay. I'll contact you when I'm in place. Peony originally wanted to contact Trigate Security, but she put it aside for now. She prepared to observe and make a judgment. I hope it's not a momentary misconception. If there's no doubt about it, I support you in starting a new research topic. When that time comes, I can call you Professor Crow. Luonan responded in a bad mood. I'll take your auspicious words. He temporarily cut off the connection and returned to his room. Haijing laughed a bit apologetically. We're going out to eat. We're going to move now. On the other side, Emoya had just ended her call. Her expression was gloomy. She looked like she had something on her mind. She recovered her usual carefree and confident attitude when she saw Luo Nan return. "You're out of luck today. The beautiful woman I wanted to introduce to you isn't coming. Shui has something to do as well. She won't be participating in this event." The number of beautiful women has decreased by 2/3. Luo Nan didn't pay much attention to the first half of Shui's words, but he was a bit surprised that Shui wouldn't be going. Shui was the drummer of the Mountain Creek Band. She was a band member whose popularity was second only to Emoya. They were about to rehearse. Was she going to act alone? Haijing also laughed. "I originally wanted to invite Teacher Cat Eyes and Miss Yuqin to come, but they need to accompany BHD to make some final adjustments." Luo Nan's eyebrows jumped. He turned to look at Cat Eyes. Cat Eyes acted as if nothing had happened. She sent him a smile. Her intentions were quite subtle. "An afternoon nap is very important. You can also do yoga in the meantime." Yuqin also said that she would accompany a friend. She wouldn't be joining in the fun. As for the trio from BHD, they were excluded from the very beginning. After all, they were still half-grown children. Their stage experience was far inferior to that of Emoya, who had been struggling in the underground circles for many years. That being said, Luo Nan discovered that he seemed to have overestimated the Mountain Creek Band a bit when they arrived at the restaurant, and the banquet began. The banquet started at 2 o'clock. The atmosphere was quite average. The participants were probably pondering about tonight's performance. They were a bit unsatisfied with the food. Mountain Creek was the lowest of the 5-member bands. The lead singer and rhythm guitarist, Emoya, and the drummer, Shui, didn't participate. These two beautiful women were the most popular. The other members were melodic guitarist, Wang Emo. He had taken over Emoya's position after she switched to lead singer. He was a professional and skilled musician, but he was a bit reserved. The bass player, Huang Xiangdong, was normally as passionate as fire, but he was also a big alcoholic. The keyboard player, Ma Lu, was the oldest member of the band. He was in the band back when Haijing was the lead singer. He was a founding member of the band. It was reasonable to say that Ma Lu and Haijing were old acquaintances, but he simply didn't pay attention to them at the dining table. He just silently ate and drank by himself. His expression was indifferent. As for the others, Emoya was a bit absent-minded. It was unknown what she was thinking. Wang Mo's fingers were subconsciously tapping on the table. It was as if he was memorizing the fingering technique. Huang Xiangdong didn't touch a drop of alcohol. He just ate and ate in silence. The atmosphere grew more and more abnormal. Luo Nan knew that this sort of atmosphere wasn't good, but he was powerless to do anything about it. Plus, he was busy with other matters. He needed to seize every minute and second to communicate with Peony. He left the table to take a call halfway through his meal. Peony narrated the results of her observations. It's suspected that the target's mood is unstable. He's overly sensitive to external stimuli. He has physiological photophobia. His breathing and heartbeat rates are around 12% higher than a normal person's. The difference is significant. These are all evidence that supports your point of view. In theory, we can believe that the mutant virus has brought about an initial transformation and adaptation process to the target. However, if you want to be serious, there are other explanations. In comparison, the reasoning of "it's better to kill the wrong person than to let the wrong person go" is more convincing. How about increasing the sample? Did you discover anything else? Is this a blessing or a curse? Luo Nan's initial ranking of the living starry sky had indeed filtered out more than one target. He leaned against the wall of the corridor and operated his wristband. He used the electronic map to mark the locations of 3 other suspected targets. There was also a moving target, but it was a bit far away. He gave up on it for now. I'll send the map to the cloud space. You can just download it. It doesn't matter if you share it with Trigate Security. Speaking of which, when will their operation team arrive? Let's not think about the operation team for now. With the traffic control in the city center, it would be considered efficient if they arrive within an hour. I just hope that their relationship with the security department is as good as they're bragging about. And wait a moment. I'll take a call. Peony spoke a few simple words after the call connected. She quickly hung up and reported to Luo Nan. This is good news. Sky Blue Security, where Long 7 is in charge of emergency support work in the municipal plaza area. He's currently bored to death, so he can help out. If there are special circumstances, he can also find people to support him. Sky Blue Security? It had been a long time since he had heard of this. Sky Blue Security was a specialized security company under Quantum Corporation. It was an important department that placed Deep Blue walkers. Over a month ago, this department's combat team had a serious conflict with Luo Nan and Rue 1. Later on, they suffered from Jack's indiscriminate attacks, resulting in disastrous losses. Long 7 or Snake 7 was a member of this combat team. It must be admitted that Sky Blue Security had the strength. Their equipment was comparable to that of the military's elite troops, and their personnel were well trained. In a certain sense, they could be trusted as a support force. Yes, Luo Nan remembered that Yen Yongbo was once the person in charge of Sky Blue Security in Xia City, but then he was called back to Luo City for a debriefing. It was unclear who the person in charge was now. Luo Nan didn't care about Sky Blue, Earth Blue, or Quantum Atom. All he wanted was a cat that could catch mice. In any case, this wouldn't affect his pay at all. The only thing that would give him a headache was Trigate Security. Do as you see fit. Call me if there's any progress. Emoya cast a glance at him as soon as Luo Nan returned to the room. She seemed to be very interested. Girlfriend? Luo Nan was stunned for a moment, then he shook his head. No, just an ordinary friend. Hai Jing laughed from the side. So it really is a girl. Emoya raised her hand to look at her watch. A total of 7 minutes and 20 seconds. You didn't dare to hang up on Mother's reprimanding call. This kind of call length should have broken the record. Luo Nan grimaced in pain. Emoya, that's enough. Could it be that the first thing you did after entering the pop music world was to become vulgar? Hai Jing continued to play the role of a supporting actor. Nanster is very popular with women right now. Not everyone can stay an entire morning in the BHD practice room. The two sang the same tune, not letting go of Luo Nan. Luo Nan was annoyed, but his heart stirred when he saw the relatively distant state of the others at the table. Chapter 465. If they really wanted to make a fuss about the atmosphere, Luo Nan would be in danger of being sacrificed for nothing. From the looks of things, the other three were not on the same page. Wang Mo and Huang Xiangdong were preoccupied with their thoughts. They were not in the mood to play around. As for Ma Lu, who was engrossed in eating and drinking, the corner of his lips was about to overflow with ridicule. Luo Nan didn't even sit down. He spread his hands towards the adulterous couple in front of him, and made a helpless and innocent expression. Aren't your methods a bit too low? Luo Nan didn't say it directly, but the meaning was clear. Emoya acted as if nothing had happened, but Hai Jing was a bit thin-skinned. He coughed lightly and said, Actually, with Nanzi's current age, it really isn't a big deal for him to know a few female friends. Even Auntie Luo probably wouldn't mind. At his age, a certain agent already has 3 fans. After this incident, Auntie Luo really wouldn't mind too much. Ma Lu suddenly spat out these words, instantly silencing the private dining room. The stimulating effect was 10 times stronger than Emoya and Hai Jing's efforts. Even Wang Mo and Huang Xiangdong, who had been drifting away emotionally, raised their eyebrows. In the circle, the 3 fans had a specific meaning. They included face powder, grass powder, and sucking powder. Face powder referred to plastic surgery. Grass powder referred to having a relationship with a fan. Sucking powder went without saying. This kind of situation was not uncommon in the underground circle. It was also the atmosphere of the circle that Luo Shuqing had always hated. It was not news for anyone to be involved in these 3 things in the underground circle. However, if Ma Lu's revelation was true, then Hai Jing, who had always presented himself as a decent person, had such rich experiences back in the day. This made Luo Nan a bit surprised. Then, was the relationship between Hai Jing and Emoya unable to take a step further because of this past influence? Perhaps his family was also a hindrance. Of course, from his own standpoint, Luo Nan probably wouldn't have agreed if Hai Jing really had such a loose past. Back to reality, Malu's shameless remarks were really too humiliating. The smile on Haijing's face was already stiff. Emoya was expressionless. Wang Emo and Huang Xiangdong looked left and right. In the end, they both lowered their heads, wanting to continue pretending not to hear. But was there any meaning in this sort of self-deception? Haijing did not say a word. He got up from his seat and pulled the door open to leave. A cool breeze blew in from outside, making the air in the room flow a little. Uncle Ma, are you crazy? In the band, Huang Xiangdong was the youngest and the most impatient. Seeing that his manager had run away in anger, he couldn't help but slam his hands on the table and hold his head in disbelief. We'll be going on stage in 5 hours. What can't you say after that? Malu chuckled. So before going on stage, a certain manager is like the king of heaven, untouchable? I didn't provoke you. When he provoked me, you even used the corner of your shirt to blow your nose. This is a F***king personal grudge. Then how do you know that a certain agent signed us for the sake of fairness? Huang Xiangdong's face turned red, and he almost got up to smash the table. Wang Emo, who was beside him, saw that the situation was not good and rushed forward to hug him. Stop talking, stop talking. However, people were like this. The more they were pulled, the angrier they became. Huang Xiangdong struggled for a while, but to no avail. He turned on his berserk mode and pointed at Ma Lu's nose. Are you a F***king saint? You've been acting weird since the day you signed the contract. Didn't signing with a commercial company ruin your image? Uncle Ma, Master Ma, if you want to be the king of the industry, you should have said so earlier. If you have the guts, throw your pen away. If you have the guts, go solo. Bang. Emoya slammed the table. It was rare for her to get angry like this. The room was silent for a moment, and then there was another bang. The half-closed door was pushed open, and the waiter pushed in a dining cart. It was filled with beer, and there were at least 10 of them. Wang Emo was dumbfounded. Who wants it? Did you send it to the wrong place? I want it. Haijing walked back with a cold face. The rehearsal starts at 4 in the afternoon. It'll be your turn at around 5 or 6. According to the schedule, you must go back before 3:30 to prepare. Before that, we can have a good discussion. He threw a small metal box on the table. Hangover medicine, for cowards. Malu sneered. Do you think you're acting in a movie? Haijing looked over with cold eyes. Red Deer. You're Red Deer. Just look at who's talking about Red Deer. Back in the day, you know which bastard brought me a fan. Now everyone knows who's feeling guilty, and is worried about their reputation. What now? If you have the guts, say it, do it, but if you don't have the guts to admit it? Malu jumped to his feet. He looked like he was going to fight. Haijing didn't even bat an eyelid. He just opened the bottle and smashed it on the table. I'll say it like this. Aside from Emoya and Luo Nan, everyone else in this room is a F***king bastard. Some are arrogant, some are pretentious, some are unrestrained. He smashed a bottle of beer on the table every time he spoke. The foam wrapped around the alcohol spilled out. Surprisingly, no one in the room refuted him. Only Emoya chuckled. She took the initiative to reach out her hand and ask Haijing for a bottle of beer. Let's play in a band together. I'm not a good person either. Haijing gave her a deep glance and really did hand over a bottle of beer. He completely ignored Luo Nan. It doesn't matter if you're a rotten bastard or a bad bastard. Just hate yourself before you hate others. If you forget this, then use alcohol to wash your intestines. If you can't do it, then what's the point of playing rock and roll? Luo Nan still hadn't figured out the grudges between them, but he knew that a single bout of drinking wouldn't resolve the knot in their hearts. Luckily, they were all adults. They knew what they had to do and what they should do. It was enough. The reality was that a group of people shouted and fought fiercely. Then 2 of them really did drink until the world spun around them. They were dead drunk. Huang Xiangdong and Malu were dead drunk losers. They were forced to drink hangover medicine. Emoya and the other 2 supported them as they moved forward step by step. The group of drunkards still had a performance at night. Even if they had a small reputation, they would become a laughingstock if they were caught by the media. For this reason, Luo Nan was the only one who hadn't touched alcohol after the banquet ended. He took on the task of scouting and guiding, leading the drunkards into a relatively secluded underground passageway. Luo Nan did this sort of task in a relaxed and happy manner. He had already planned out the optimal path to the Tonghui building within his sensing region. It was more powerful than any electronic map. So far, he still had the leisure to pay attention to the tracking of the mutant infection. Of course, he didn't forget about the distribution of the steps below the awakened. Peony communicated with him once more, explaining the current progress. There are 4 suspected targets. All of them are university students who came to participate in the demonstration. All of them are female. Their symptoms are all quite similar. There aren't any obvious differences. For the time being, we'll treat them as infected. From past data, this proves that the stage of infection they are in is subdivided. They are roughly in the same range. Then we can make another hypothesis. The time of infection and the source of infection they came into contact with should be similar. It sounds like there's some progress. There's no pattern to the distribution of their schools. They're from the eastern and western city districts. The same goes for their home addresses. 2 of them were born and raised in Xia City. The other 2 came to study abroad. This doesn't match with the Xiqing district, the Riverwu district, and the Forest Wall district that we previously focused on investigating. We haven't discovered any reasonable clues in terms of geographical location, which is also the domain of our early focus of work. So it's like this. Luo Nan was a bit skeptical when he heard this news. Did he make a mistake in his judgment? After all, the step distribution was a topic he had just begun to research. It was normal for a few mistakes to occur. Peony had a very confident appearance at this time. The 4 targets are all under close surveillance. At the same time, we're already digging deep into their social relationships. Geographical factors are meaningless. Let's research social factors. From a sociological perspective, they are all women. They are of similar age. They are beautiful. This similarity is a clue in and of itself. Overall, we believe in your professional abilities, Mr. Partner. Thank you for your trust. Luo Nan laughed in response. He recalled something. Oh right, there's another suspect target aside from these 4 targets. She's been moving around the municipal plaza all this time. Since you have enough manpower now, you should monitor that person as well. The moving target never left Luo Nan's range of senses. Luo Nan observed her from a distance as he described her appearance. This is also a woman. She's around 16 or 17 years old. She shouldn't be a university student. She's been shopping with her friends. Oh, she's come out now. She's joined some sort of team. A parade. It's not a parade. I saw a support sign. It should be a fan of some celebrity. They know that there's a performance tonight, and they came to the plaza to support them. These fans have always been super organized. Luo Nan had become more experienced in this aspect after spending an entire morning with the BHD group. Peony's focus was different from his. She's also a woman? How's her appearance? She's quite decent. Above average. TSK. You really are a stalker. Why are you so sensitive to women? Speaking of which, I'm also a beauty. Do you want to meet? I said it before. It's just that I have a lot of eyes. Okay. Whatever Mr. Partner says. I won't expose your nature as a shut-in. Hehe. The 2 ended the call. Luo Nan shook his head. He had the feeling that Peony was using psychological profiling techniques on him. The more he interacted with her, the clearer his true image would become. With Peony's intelligence, could he really keep his identity a secret? Luo Nan didn't know why Her Majesty Empress Wu would make such an unnecessary move. This situation was quite embarrassing. Luo Nan let out a breath of turbid air, and turned his attention back to the back. Emoya and her group were still staggering as they walked. At this speed, it would be up to the blessings of the heavens to be able to return to the Tonghui building by 3:30. Oh, who's that? Luo Nan saw someone walk out from the underground passageway. The timing was perfect. The person just happened to be right in front of Emoya and her group. The person's gaze cut across the group of drunkards before finally stopping on Emoya's face. Though the person was blocking the path, it didn't look like he had any intentions of giving way. Instead, he took the initiative to speak. Emoya? This person should be familiar with Emoya and her group. Luonan could see that Emoya was startled for a moment before she happily responded. She didn't feel any sense of unfamiliarity. The middle-aged man's hair was sparse, but he looked very healthy. His body was lean and powerful, and there wasn't much fat on his face. When he smiled, his muscles pulled, forming long ravines. He wasn't ugly, but he had a grave and stern aura to him. Could he be a soldier? Luonan subconsciously used his mental senses to scan the middle-aged man's life sketch. Then he saw. Chapter 466. Yes, emptiness. Luonan's consciousness wandered within the living starry sky, sweeping across the densely packed stars. However, he was unable to find the structure of the middle-aged man's life sketch. Not even the shrouding nebula that powerful people were accustomed to could be found. Luonan was unable to see anything that he could use as a reference. However, the middle-aged man was just a few hundred meters away, chatting with Emoya, Hygiene, and Wang Emo. They talked about the performance in the evening and the style and characteristics of the Mountain Stream Band. From their words, it was clear that they were experienced fans of the music industry, or even industry insiders. That's right. I can use my mental senses to interfere with the material plane, and I can clearly sense his vital signs. His breathing, heartbeat, and body temperature were normal. The physical body can be seen, but the spirit is nothingness? Luonan felt his blood run cold for a time. Is this fellow a human or a ghost? This was the first time Luonan encountered such a situation, ever since he constructed the living starry sky. Back when he was at Fudong Great Dao's Frost River reality, he sensed President Ouyang's logic world. He sensed the long-distance clash between Her Majesty Empress Wu and the upper echelons of the Order of Justice, causing the starry sky to sway and nearly collapse. That was a real feeling. It was absolutely not an emptiness that he could not touch now. Luonan was stupefied for a few seconds before he suddenly came to a realization. Such a strange character was standing together with his sister. It was hard to understand what he was thinking. Without another word, he turned around and ran. Halfway through, he suddenly realized something and used the hexa ear to send a message to Qin Ikuan, who was not far away from him. Qin Ikuan transferred the image he saw to Qin Ikuan. Help me investigate this man. He's with my sister now. I'm on my way there. Also, I need help. Speaking to this point, Luonan recalled how Emoya had addressed the middle-aged man. He added, "This person's name is Luo Yuan. It's probably this sound." Things had happened in a rush. Luonan's explanation was like a clap of thunder on the flat ground. It startled Qin Ikuan so much that he was in a complete mess. The exclusive security personnel, who had been slowly tailing them in the car, had their pleasant afternoon time come to an end. People jumped out of their cars one after another and ran wildly in Luonan's direction. Qin Ikuan was the fastest to arrive. He blocked Luonan before he could turn into the underground passageway where Emoya and the others were. "Mr. Luo, please let us handle this." Qin Ikuan didn't give Luonan the chance to refuse. He relied on his powerful arm strength to firmly control Luonan at the corner. At the same time, he ordered his underlings to split into two groups. One of the groups carried light weapons and quickly approached Emoya's position, locking onto the dangerous target. Everything had just been arranged when Luo Yuan suddenly smiled from Emoya's side. His gaze swept to the side to the rear. He was clearly pointing at the corner that was blocking Luonan and Qin Ikuan. Luonan used his mental senses to observe this detail. His heart skipped a beat, but he saw the middle-aged man bid farewell to Emoya. "I still have things to do today, so I can't chat much. I'll be leaving first. I wish you all a successful performance." This person shook hands with Emoya, and the others one by one. Even Ma Lu and Huang Xiangdong, who were drunk and muddle-headed, were not spared. Then he passed by them and went straight down the underground tunnel. Luonan and Qin Ikuan both let out sighs of relief when they saw this situation. Qin Ikuan immediately gave a more dependable order, Follow him evenly. Don't act rashly. A few seconds after the order was issued, Mr. Luo Yuan turned into aisle 4 not far away and disappeared from most people's sight. The security personnel in charge of tracking reported. He went up the escalator and entered the municipal plaza area. It's estimated that he has left a safe distance. Should we continue tracking him? Qin Yikuan glanced at Luo Nan. Continue. Connect to the surrounding surveillance. We need to confirm the time period before and after. I'll contact the branch and do my best to figure out his social identity as soon as possible. The last sentence was directed at Luo Nan. Luo Nan nodded slightly and let out a secret breath of relief. Due to the privacy of the living starry sky, Luo Nan couldn't say clearly why he suspected this person. He was worried that he wouldn't be able to explain himself. But clearly, he was overthinking things. With his current status in the society and his famed mental senses, Qin Yikuan and the other security personnel, from top to bottom, didn't question him at all. They even used the high-grade resources of the branch without the slightest hesitation. Soon Luo Yuan's movement trajectory appeared on the hexa-ear. Actually, Luo Nan had locked onto him. Though the mental plane was empty and Luo Nan was unable to directly locate him, he could still indirectly monitor him through the surrounding personnel. Under everyone's gazes, Luo Yuan boarded a flying car that had been waiting for a long time outside the municipal square and slowly drove away. Luo Yuan didn't make any other contact during this time. And the latest surveillance results came out. This person had entered the municipal plaza area for around 20 minutes. He had been walking the entire time without stopping until he met Emoya and her party. It seemed that this person had come specifically to chat with Emoya and the others. He would leave after he finished chatting. Anyone could feel an extremely strong sense of purpose when they saw the movement trajectory organized by the security personnel. Luo Nan just felt a chill from the bottom of his heart. The actions of this Luo Yuan posed an immeasurable threat to him, and even his family members. Luo Nan couldn't help but make a few deductions in his mind. The results made his scalp faintly swell. This sort of monster was empty on the mental plane. Most of Luo Nan's mental abilities became mere decorations. If they were to really fight, Luo Nan could count on very, very few methods. Qin Yikuan's expression was grave. I'll contact the military police outside and find a reason to interrogate them. Emoya and the others had already walked to the corner by now. They were a bit surprised to see Luo Nan, and a stranger leaning against this place. Luo Nan suppressed the uneasiness in his heart, and asked Emoya as if nothing had happened. I saw you talking to someone just now. Who's that? Oh, that. His name is Luo Yuan. We met at the Mantown Music Festival. He's an uncle with an awesome smoky voice. He's especially good at seducing people. Wang Emo added. The expression of the wilderness minor tune is very strong. According to him, he can only get the taste out of searching for treasures and picking up girls in the wilderness all year round. The wilderness? Luo Nan and Qin Yikuan exchanged glances once more. This was even more troublesome. Were vagrants included? Qin Yikuan immediately gave an order to his subordinates. Search the vagrant database. Prioritize the area around Xia City. All information from the security personnel went through the psychic wave network. Outsiders wouldn't be able to find out. However, Qin Yikuan standing here was already very eye-catching. Emoya cast her gaze over. She was a bit puzzled. This is? Oh, Brother Qin is a friend I met at the Daoguan. Luo Nan's brain suddenly jammed when he spoke to this point. He could only throw the blame away. Luckily, Qin Yikuan's skill at throwing the blame was quite high. He had a calm smile on his face as he took the initiative to introduce himself. I'm Qin Yikuan. I met Nanster during an exchange at the Daoguan. I work for a security company. Our company is responsible for patrolling the area for the university students' demonstration today. Emoya gave a simple introduction of the people here, and the two sides got to know each other. While they were introducing each other, the latest information regarding Luo Yuan came back. Luo Nan and Qin Yikuan didn't feel too good when they received the news. No one. How could there be no one? Yes. There were no traces of this person in the car. The driver is an employee of a regular car rental company. He doesn't know anything. He said that after the customer got off the car, he never came back. I feel like he's missing a piece of his memory. It's like he was swallowed by a ghost. The road that stopped Luo Yuan's flying car had already exceeded the range of Luo Nan's mental senses. Luo Nan was unable to directly sense the situation at the scene, but the information he received made his hair stand on end. Afterwards, Qin Ikuan requested his subordinates to investigate the surveillance, but there were no traces. That person really was like a spirit. He suddenly appeared and then disappeared. The situation was heading toward a serious trend. Luo Nan and Qin Ikuan exchanged opinions. On the plane of reality, Qin Ikuan was a complete opposite of his usual taciturn attitude. He faced Emoya and the others with a warm smile. I heard from Nanster that you guys are signed artists and public figures. The flow of people in front is getting bigger and bigger. Soon a group of students will pass by. It's inconvenient to continue like this. How about this? I'll open up a reserved safe passage. Everyone can pass through here. It'll save us a lot of trouble. Emoya and Haijing never thought that there would be such a good thing. They were a bit hesitant. Is that okay? No problem. It's our duty to avoid possible accidents. Qin Ikuan spoke a few words through his wristband in a dignified manner. Then he guided everyone into the closed and deactivated escalator. The deactivated escalator started operating once more as soon as they went up. Now Emoya and the others had no more doubts about Qin Ikuan's status and authority. Plus, they were very interested in the mysterious and hot-blooded Taoist career. Soon, everyone started chatting enthusiastically. Little did they know that many people were holding their breaths in rapt attention in this temporarily open safe passage. Some were so nervous that their palms were sweating. Everyone couldn't relax for even a moment before the fellow who called himself Luo Yuan re-entered the surveillance field of view. Luo Nan and the others returned to the Tonghui building in a strange atmosphere. Qin Ikuan couldn't follow them back in here. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to explain his identity. But the society was truly resourceful. Luo Nan had just said goodbye to Qin Ikuan and entered the private elevator when someone who called himself the deputy head of the building's security followed them. He wore a well-ironed uniform, and his gaze crossed with Luo Nan's. This deputy head had just gone for a morning run with Luo Nan 2 days ago. He was an ability user retired from the military. His name was God, and he was the deputy head of Luo Nan's security team. He and Qin Ikuan took turns taking care of Luo Nan's daily security work. Today was supposed to be an off-duty day, but considering that the situation in the municipal square was different from home and school, he rushed over to strengthen the security force. He was a responsible uncle. Although Haijing was one of the people in charge of Mingtang culture here, it was impossible for him to control the security personnel of the entire office building. He didn't care when he saw that there were no problems with God's clothes and authority. As the elevator went up, he asked a few questions about the situation of the underground passageway that led directly to the backstage. God answered fluently and gave him the contact number of the person in charge. Haijing had already saved it, but he was still very grateful. Chapter 467. When the elevator reached the 56th floor, it was already 3:45 p.m. For Mountain Stream and all the artists from Mingtang culture, this was the real battle preparation stage. They didn't need to think about practicing anymore. All they needed to do was relax and adjust their state of mind. Haijing drinking with a group of people might seem out of line, but it was actually a prelude to relaxing. It was perfect for a grassroots band like Mountain Stream. It could be said that he had put in a lot of effort. However, it wasn't easy to get rid of the effects of drunkenness. As soon as they returned to the practice room, Haijing acted like a manager and ordered all the members of Mountain Stream to sleep, especially Huang Xiangdong and Ma Lu, who had drunk too much. Ma Lu's alcohol tolerance was fine. He just squatted on the floor and refused to get up. Huang Xiangdong, on the other hand, was extremely excited. He picked up his beloved bass and played an impromptu solo. It was rare that he was still in tune. In the deep sound, Haijing arranged methodically, The wake-up time is at 4:30 p.m. There are still 45 minutes left. You are all old drunkards and have taken drugs. There is enough time. I will arrange for the transportation of the instruments and send them directly backstage. For now, don't think about anything else. Have a good sleep. Wang Emo raised his hand. But Brother Jing, we are still missing one person. Hai Jing was stunned. Alcohol still had an effect on him. He didn't realize that the drummer Shui Yi had not returned yet. He reacted quickly. Don't worry about it. I will contact her. He said it lightly, but after 2 rounds of calls, Shui Yi did not pick up. No one could stay calm now. Without one person, how could they perform at night? Huang Xiangdong, who was still drunk, roared. I would have *ket her 2 months ago. Emoya kicked him against the wall. Huang Xiangdong and Shui Jing had been a couple for a period of time, but they had broken up. Although their band was small, there were many messy things going on inside. In the midst of the chaos, Shui Yi finally picked up the 3rd round of calls. She said that she had just returned and would be there soon. Not long after, the door to the practice room opened. Shui Yi walked in. Her long hair was wet, and she was panting. Her face was bright red. From the smell of her breath, it seemed that she had drunk too. Huang Xiangdong glared at Shui Yi. He wanted to say something to his ex-girlfriend, but he was also drunk, so he didn't have the qualification to say that. He could only vent his anger by pulling the strings. Bass's low voice swept through the training room again. However, the next moment, Hai Jing snatched it away. Sober up, take a bath, change your clothes and sleep. This is your current task. There is no time to waste. Hurry up. Shui Yi snorted and went to the lounge. He staggered a little. Emoya asked her, Are you okay? There are sobering pills here. Okay. Shui Yi flipped her hair and couldn't help laughing. When she reached out to take it, she didn't even manage to catch it. Luonan frowned from behind the door. Poor sense of distance. Chaotic emotions. Signs of stimulating activity in many areas of the brain. Did this sis take drugs? Taking drugs to get high before a performance was a bad habit of many bands in the industry, and many people had been ruined by it. Shui Yi's method, in the long run, was really not wise. In any case, the matter was resolved perfectly for now. Luonan didn't need to stay in the Mountain Stream Band's room any longer. He called out to them and left, saying that he was going to rest for a bit. Outside the door, God stood in the hallway waiting. Cat Eyes was next to him. Cat Eyes had already received some news. She chuckled. What's wrong? Did you cause trouble again? Luonan was too lazy to answer. He asked God, Is there any news about that Luo Yuan? God shook his head. Not yet. Why did he suddenly disappear? Luonan felt a bit of a headache. However, the 3 of them were not company personnel standing in the hallway. They were quite eye-catching, so Luonan made the decision to choose a place to discuss matters. It was room 5627. He had the authority and password, and there was no one there. The automatic cleaning system of Tonghui Building was trustworthy. Luonan didn't discover any traces of the indescribable path after entering the room. The air was still quite clear. He sighed and stretched. He warmed up his muscles and bones, pondering what to do next. God spoke up at this time. There's the latest information regarding that Luo Yuan. Have you found him? Where is he? No. We haven't found any traces of the target, but we have some clues regarding his identity. The society had never stopped collecting and organizing information ever since Luonan's warning. Fortunately, this Luo Yuan didn't seem to be a particularly low-key person. The 3 of them could access the psychic wave network, and the relevant information could be easily shared. God gave a further explanation. Luo Yuan, a vagrant of the wilderness. He's a relatively famous gene dealer. A nicer way to describe a so-called gene dealer was a gene merchant. This occupation used various methods to collect valuable genetic samples and provide services to various laboratories that did related topics. Their targets included relatively rare animals and plants, as well as various successful people in society, and even mutants and ability users. Cat Eyes sneered. Dragons give birth to dragons, phoenixes give birth to phoenixes, and the son of a mouse can dig holes. This kind of thinking is quite popular right now. Many laboratories want to make some achievements on this path. It's a sunrise industry. Luonan was a bit puzzled. Since he's a gene dealer, he must be interested in some special genes. Who's his target? Cat Eyes and God cast their gazes over as soon as Luonan finished speaking. Me. Are you happy? If you're short on money in the future, you can make some money by selling genes. Luonan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What's wrong with that? If he's really interested in my genes, can't I just pluck out a strand of my hair and give it to him? Or should I just spit on him? Also, he can go to the hospital. In today's society, genetic sampling was a physical examination program that existed from a young age. Every few years, the Public Welfare Department would go to schools and families to collect genetic samples to screen for various fatal diseases. There was also a common saying that the government did this in order to perfect the human gene pool and strengthen their ability to control society. In any case, the genetic information of a citizen was absolutely no secret to those who had the ability. There was no need to go against the Xia City branch. Cat Eyes clicked her tongue twice and shook her head. Boss, you may be young, but don't treat ignorance as happiness, okay? Have you ever heard of the limit gene? Is that a word you coined? I don't help the society take the blame. This concept is quite popular in the inner world. It involves the problem of the source of an ability user's power. There are quite a few people who believe that the source of an ability user's power lies in the strengthening and modification of the human body's original genes by their extraordinary abilities. The genes of the same person before and after their ability awakens will be different. Similarly, the genetic structure of the peak limit state will be different from the normal state. Although this theory doesn't have solid data to support it, many people believe in it. Therefore, many gene dealers are all perverts. Luonan felt a bit dizzy. Where's the logic in your words? God explained in a deep voice from the side. A first-rate gene dealer is also a first-rate torturer. They use all sorts of methods to make their targets experience multiple states and stages. Finally, they are forced to the point of no return in order to obtain the most complete genetic sample. They can do this to mutants, and they can also do this to humans. Therefore, being targeted by a gene dealer is absolutely not an easy thing to do. Luonan raised his eyebrows, but he didn't say anything. God reminded him a step further. Plus, from the current information, the so-called gene dealer is likely just a layer of cover. After all, his transaction records are far too few. Perhaps there are deeper secrets that haven't been exposed. The society is still continuing to investigate, but some information requires the use of headquarters authority. Right now they are still communicating. The latter half of God's words were suddenly cut off. Before this, Luonan and Cat Eyes had already sensed that someone was coming into the room. The outer door trembled several seconds later. Before the person entered the room, a voice was already transmitted in. Don't worry about the rehearsal. We still have a long period of time. Young master, can't you just wait a bit? Ah. The female artist laughed as she rushed in, still pouting coquettishly without end. She didn't pay attention to the environment in the room at all. But the three enormous figures in the empty room could be seen with a single glance. It was hard not to see them even if they didn't want to. The female artist was stupefied in place a second later. However, Donglu, who was behind her, clearly didn't wake up in time. He saw her body stop, so he wrapped an arm around her waist from behind. He moved up and down ceaselessly. Oh my! I've always admired the body management of the artists under Mingtang culture. Ah! Donglu finally discovered the situation in the room. He had been stupefied for a record-breaking 5 seconds. Then he laughed mischievously. So you guys are already here. I know. First come, first served. You guys take your time to play. You all understand that your tastes are quite heavy. In the end, even he himself didn't know what to say. He pulled the female artist away in a sorry state. Luonan stared at them the entire time. Even though the door was closed, his mental senses were still locked onto them. Cat Eyes cast a sidelong glance at him. Hey, you're interested in that woman too? But her body management is really quite good. She practices at my place all year round. She can rank in the top 5. Luonan ignored the nonsense inside and asked, "Didn't you notice? That person seems to be." "Oh, you're talking about Lan Lin." "Yeah. She and Lan Lin were here this morning." "That's right." Cat Eyes wasn't interested in discussing this topic. She interrupted Luonan's words. First-rate body management doesn't mean that desire management is equally outstanding. Plus, standards aren't the same in this circle. Speaking of which, your standards are quite conservative. You and Captain Gao should be on the same page on this point. Gao didn't react at all. It was as if he hadn't heard anything. Luonan's lips curled. His mental senses continued to linger on the female artist's body. The scene just now gave him a vague reminder. It made him think of a few things, but he was unable to grasp them for the time being. Chapter 468. Simply waiting was boring. But if there were clear things to do during this time, the flow of time would be astonishingly fast. Soon it was already 4:30 in the afternoon. Hai Jing, who had gone through the wake-up call, contacted Luonan and asked him if he wanted to follow the Mountain Creek Band and the BHD Band to the backstage waiting room. Luonan responded smoothly, "Okay, I'll go right now." But God and Cat Eyes cast their gazes over the moment the words left his mouth. They didn't seem to agree with him. Luonan hung up the call. He felt a bit guilty, but he still asked, "What's wrong?" Cat Eyes chuckled. "If the gene dealer's target is you, aren't you afraid that the several 100,000 people in the municipal plaza will be buried along with you? Given your ability to stir up trouble, I'm indebted to you for thinking so highly of me." No. I think you're being too conservative." Using some extremely vulgar words to describe a certain person, he was simply born for the grand occasion. Frost River Reality and Ocean Sky Cloud City were things that everyone knew about. Back at Aurora Cloud City, he had only watched from the sidelines. He had not even taken part in the battle. This was also the effect of an earthquake. Famous experts like In Wang, Snaketongue, and Mo Luan had fallen one after the other. Why did the Xia City branch arrange a security team like they were serving a lord? They were on guard the entire time. Even so, Aurora Cloud City nearly failed to turn over. Right now, Cat Eyes had the attitude of facing the Demon King of Calamity in conversation. Of course Luonan was aware of this. He could not help but glare fiercely at her. But he could not deny that this was indeed a problem. It was not that Luonan did not consider it. But if he were to intervene from another angle, the problem would still be serious. What if the drug dealer's target is Moya? After all, he has been in contact with Moya and the others ever since the Man City Music Festival. And from the trajectory of his actions, he has an extremely strong goal. Cat Eyes curled her lips. If his target is your sister, do you think that you two siblings will be able to reunite in Xia City? Luonan rolled his eyes and did not reply. "See, I told you so. Boss, and I'm saying if, an assassin targeting you uses your family as bait to lure you into making a stupid decision, then his workload should be reduced by a lot." Right when Luonan was choking, God took the initiative to speak. "If Mr. Luo is worried, then a relatively moderate countermeasure is this. Mr. Luo and Miss Moya will be separated. Our security forces can be appropriately divided. Qin Ikuan will be responsible for Miss Moya, and I will be responsible for Mr. Luo. Add Cat Eyes and the people transferred over from the society." Diversion. Cat Eyes widened her eyes. "Captain Gao, what kind of *T contingency plan is this? Do you think that the enemy someone provoked is the same terrorist you dealt with in the army?" Cat Eye's evaluation was very sharp, but this did not mean that she cared about Luonan that much. She was just picking at him out of habit. God was not angry. He simply replied, "The security team must respect Mr. Luo's wishes. This is the first time I've realized that security work can be so humane. That's because Mr. Luo isn't a wealthy businessman with a big belly. When vice president he arranged the mission, he mentioned that Mr. Luo has the ability to break free from security forces. If he doesn't cooperate, security work is just empty talk." God spoke up to this point, but he still added, "Mr. Luo has taken good care of us up until now." Cat Eyes giggled. In other words, you guys are just waiting for him to blow up, right? Continuing to speak would just be bickering. God rationally shut his mouth and said nothing. Luonan knew that God had suffered a calamity because of him. He simply ended the topic. I'll go meet up with Moya and the others first. Speaking of which, I'll just kidnap Moya and bring her home. Hee, pretend I didn't say anything. In any case, finding Luo Yuan is the safest method. He was just about to get up when Hai Jing called. Nanster, it's a bit messy upstairs right now. It's not easy to arrange people. Do me a favor, and leave the elevator open. If the main elevator isn't enough, then the backup elevator is fine. Okay, got it, Brother Jing. Luonan responded as his mental senses directly covered the area. For the sake of secrecy, Mingtang culture had refused to use the public elevator when they reserved this floor. There was only one dedicated elevator and one backup elevator. There were at least 100 people on this floor, including artists, assistants, and staff. They were all gathered at this time, and they all had to rush backstage. Even though they had already considered the diversion, the elevator's usage rate was still extremely high. Luonan used his mental senses to scan the floor situation. He saw that there was a large piece of luggage being transferred in the direction of the main elevator. He simply gave up on using the elevator. His consciousness swam to the backup elevator. He saw that a group of people had just gone down, so he used his soul strength to interfere with the material plane and pressed the down button. Cat Eyes let out a long sigh. Mental interference with reality. Just use it on the elevator. Don't you hear the 100,000 ability users crying? The straight line distance between room 5627 and the backup elevator was at least 50 to 60 meters. Cat Eyes was barely able to track it. It wasn't that Cat Eyes couldn't press the button through the air, but she couldn't reach Luonan's level of lifting something heavy as if it were light. In fact, the vast majority of psychic ability users needed their consciousness to soak in for a long period of time to achieve a certain degree of resonance and fusion. Only then could they exert force. Cat Eyes was already a 1 in 100 talent among psychic ability users for her ability to realize her awakening. But her heart hurt when she compared her own methods to Luonan's. Thank you for the compliment. Luonan stood up and patted the dust off his butt. He spoke to Gauda. Captain Gao, I'll have to trouble you. Gauda didn't say much. He just nodded. It was quite interesting to say that the security team by Luonan's side were all taciturn, regardless of whether they were in charge or deputy positions. Luonan and Qin Ikuan had been discussing fighting quite a bit these past few days, so they were more familiar with each other. And Gauda was like this. Luonan had to admit that this kind of bodyguard was quite worry-free. He Yuan must have spent quite a bit of thought when she chose the members of his security team. Gauda and Cat Eyes wanted to discuss matters to take note of in their future cooperation. So Luonan pushed open the door and left first. He had just rounded the corner when a voice came from behind. Hey, who's that? Luonan didn't need to turn his head to know who it was. He hesitated for a moment before turning around. Sure enough, he saw a slightly plump woman. This was Shi Wei's assistant. It was because of her that Luonan transformed into a delivery boy this morning, causing quite a bit of trouble. Assistant Meng. Luonan finally remembered that he still had the status of a temporary worker at Mingtang culture. He immediately greeted her. You've worked hard this morning. Oh right, what's your name again? You just arrived at the company, right? I've never seen you before. Assistant Meng's appearance was ordinary, but her personality was quite good. She wasn't the one who had Luonan run errands this morning. It was mainly because of Boss Wu. Luonan said his own name. It was this small delay when the door to room 5621 opened on the other end of the long hallway. The BHD trio walked out with backpacks on their backs. The three saw Luonan and Assistant Meng on the other end of the long hallway. Baiyu was the first to wave. It looked like the sun was shining brilliantly at first glance, but all of it shone on Luonan. Chapter 469. As they spoke, Yuqin walked out of the room a bit late. She didn't forget to close the door. At this time, Baiyu had already rushed out a few steps. She quickly passed through the long hallway and pounced forward. She hugged Assistant Meng and started rubbing her face. Even though Assistant Meng was sturdy, she still staggered from the long-legged chick Baiyu. All she could do was push her down with a face full of disgust. I've been certified as an agent. Be careful that I don't ask you guys to come over and drink with those high-ranking officials and rich businessmen. Yeah, I have to be a bit more handsome. Baiyu giggled and didn't take it seriously at all. At this time, Shui Yuan and Clara came over to greet them. Though they weren't as exaggerated as Baiyu, they were quite close to each other. It could be seen that this Assistant Meng had a good relationship with the BHD group. Only Yuqin walked straight to Luo Nan's side and bowed slightly. Mr. Luo. Luo Nan nodded in response, but he remembered something. I've wasted quite a bit of your time today. I think I heard Baiyu mention that you have an appointment tonight? I'm just watching a show with a friend. I'll be there when the time comes. Yuqin took a deep breath and her voice became a bit softer. Mr. Luo. Do you want to come along? No thanks. I still have things to do. I'll probably leave in a bit. Luo Nan and Yuqin chatted for a bit before he heard his name called. It started when Baiyu asked Assistant Meng what she was going to do. Assistant Meng said that she was going to buy something for Shi Wei. Let Luo Nan run some errands. No need, no need. You guys are busy. Assistant Meng shook her head fiercely. She had a kind temperament. Without Chief Wu by her side, she certainly wouldn't order people around. If I don't do this, then why would I be an assistant? Baiyu urged with all her might. Don't be silly, sis. If there's a strong worker here, then use him. Don't be shy. Luo Nan stared at Baiyu with wide eyes. Were little girls nowadays this vicious? Just because she fell asleep while you were dancing, you want to sell her? Assistant Meng was really silly. She didn't know where Baiyu's enthusiasm came from. She could only shake her head and refuse. Seeing Assistant Meng insist, Baiyu didn't push it. She chuckled and said, Silly sis, you're magnanimous. But this way, I don't have the face to speak for him. Ha! Luo Nan and Assistant Meng didn't understand. Baiyu stuck out her thumb and poked the back of her shoulder. This man can be considered a friend of mine. Apart from being lazy and sleeping a lot, there's nothing wrong with him. By the way, he wasn't late to deliver tea this morning, was he? No. The service is quite good. Yes, I can. That's good. You didn't embarrass me. As Baiyu spoke, she suddenly swung at Luo Nan's chest. It looked intimate, but the strength behind her swing was truly fierce. If it weren't for the fact that Luo Nan had put in enough effort to temper his muscles and bones, he might have gotten a chest ache. However, Baiyu acted as though nothing had happened. Her eyes curved into crescents as she smiled. In that case, Sister Meng, seeing that he is a competent lackey, can you satisfy his humble wish and give him an autographed photo of Sister Weiwei? Meng's assistant was stunned for a second before she finally understood Baiyu's confusing thoughts. She immediately laughed. Aren't you tired of going around in circles? Baiyu blinked her eyes and acted cute. I'm not tired. How could I be tired of talking to Sister Meng? Oh right, the autograph photo needs to be a bit more conservative. He might become a pervert after being provoked. Luo Nan didn't react. He still hadn't figured it out. What the hell is an autograph photo? What does he want with that thing? Assistant Meng had already agreed with a smile. No problem. It's worth it just because of your saliva, baby. Sister Meng, you're awesome. Also, if there's a congratulatory message on it, don't write this guy's name. Just write. Baiyu turned around and saw Luo Nan in a daze. She sent him another elbow. What's your cousin's name again? Oh, his name is Emopeng. Luo Nan finally understood. He did say that he wanted to get Shi Wei's autograph photo for his cousin back in the practice room, but that was just a random excuse. He forgot about it in the blink of an eye. He never thought that Baiyu would actually remember it. Assistant Meng laughed. Don't worry about the name. Luo Nan, you have my number. Send me a message later and I'll ask Sister Weiwei to sign it. Then I'll let you know. No matter what the nature of the matter was, Luo Nan needed to express his gratitude since Assistant Meng was willing to help him. He immediately bowed. Thank you, Assistant Meng. Don't leave anyone out. Baiyu tugged at Luo Nan and raised an eyebrow. What do you think? I'm a good friend, right? You're a good friend. Luonen gave a thumbs up. Honestly speaking, he was a bit touched. Even though this little girl's gossipy nature was quite terrifying, her merits were quite clear. The door to room 5627 opened once more at this time. Cat Eyes and Gouda came out, and the group met up in the corner. The BHD trio let out sighs of relief when they saw Cat Eyes. They were even pleasantly surprised. Baiyu was the one with the fastest mouth. She immediately shouted, "Teacher, where did you go just now? It's not like I can replace you guys on stage. Since my teaching mission is complete, I can go anywhere." Cat Eyes answered casually and introduced Gouda to them. "You can call him Captain Gao. He's a professional security guard. If you guys are facing a calamity today, count on him for your survival." The BHD trio, Assistant Meng, and Yu Qin were all stupefied. 2 seconds passed before Clara, who had top-notch communication skills, sighed. She stuck her fingers into her hairline and laughed bitterly. "Teacher Cat Eyes, I beg of you. We have a performance tonight." "Oh, I wish you guys a successful performance. I wish you all the best." Cat Eyes beamed as she wrapped her arms around Baiyu and Clara's shoulders and led them forward. The atmosphere was thrown into chaos by Cat Eyes' casual words. But Luonen knew that Cat Eyes was pressuring him, warning him not to go and cause trouble. Calamity? Should I clear my name or not? Luonen originally wanted to go to the Mountain Creek Band's room and meet Emoya face to face. But Emoya sent him a message a step earlier, saying that they had already left the room, and that they could meet up at the elevator entrance. "Okay, we'll head over first," Luonen responded. He didn't forget to remind Assistant Meng, "Let's go to the backup elevator together. The main elevator is currently transferring luggage. It won't be free for a while." Assistant Meng smiled and nodded. Before he could say anything, Baiyu turned around and shouted, "Did you reserve the elevator?" "I did." "Then why aren't you guarding the elevator doorman? What if someone else takes it? The last wave hasn't even reached the ground floor yet. As long as you don't talk nonsense, you'll definitely make it." Baiyu wasn't polite at all. She turned around and sent another hammer swing, but this time she missed. Playing around with the beautiful young lady felt pretty good, but Luonen was destined to not have much leisure time today. He had only walked a few steps when he received another message from Peony. Perhaps it was because Luonen had seen through Peony's drunkenness today, but this elite woman, who always had her own opinions, no longer needed to put on airs. She would look for Luonen to communicate with whenever she had something to do. This time, she simply came to complain. "Trigate security has been investigated. All monitoring work has been banned." "Ah, the Xia City branch. You know about it, right?" "Oh, the Wilderness Explorers Society. You know about it." "I'm talking about the Xia City branch. They've made a big scene. I don't know what's gotten into them, but they didn't hesitate to mobilize their military and political connections to take over all security work around the municipal plaza. They're sifting out sand right now." "Really?" Luonen subconsciously turned to look at God when he heard this. He inquired through the mission window of the Psychic Wave Network and confirmed that it was indeed the Society's handiwork. "Why is it so big?" "It's an order from above. I don't know the specifics." The short conversation on the Psychic Wave Network ended. It was hard for Luonen to not feel a bit guilty when facing Peony again. He grunted a few times in agreement, practicing all the tones and words he knew. In the end, he feigned concern. "The search work has been stopped." "Definitely. Communication will take some time. However, we're still investigating the social connections of the target. We've made some discoveries. I've already sent the real-time information to the cloud space. It will be continuously updated. You can look it up at any time." A call came in just as they were talking. Peony swept a glance and picked it up in the first instance. Through Ink's perspective, Luonen could see the lines between Peony's brows and eyes curl. Her originally free and easy charm instantly turned exquisite and gentle. "How are you? Are you in a good state? Hey, is it appropriate to multitask?" Luonen felt that he had fallen into an awkward state of being miserably ignored. He was just thinking about whether or not he should end the call. A group of people had arrived outside the spare elevator in the office building. On the other side of the corridor, Hai Jing and the Mountain Creek Band came over with bags of various sizes. The two sides just happened to bump into each other. On the other side, Emoya was also on the phone. She was probably talking to a friend. She was chatting enthusiastically with a radiant smile. The sister and brother just nodded their heads in greeting. Hai Jing took command in the first instance and rushed everyone to the elevator. The office building had limited resources. The spare elevator left for Mingtang culture was transferred from the property elevator. It was located in a small compartment next to the fire escape. The elevator was only 7 or 8 square meters in size. The two groups, plus Luonan and the others, already had 14 people. Their luggage was more or less stuffed to the brim. As a security personnel, God instinctively furrowed his brows when he saw so many people crowded together. The first thing Clara did after entering the elevator was to look at the number of people the elevator could carry. She let out a breath of relief when she saw that there were 16 people. Luckily, we didn't exceed the limit. What's there to be afraid of? In any case, it's not our turn to run up the stairs. Baiyu spoke and her gaze hooked at Luonan. Her meaning was self-evident. She was used to messing around with Luonan, but she forgot that there were still a bunch of bastards who had slaughtered their way out of the underground circle, especially since they were still drunk. The most lively of them all, Huang Xiangdong, whistled on the spot. Youngsters these days have a hierarchy? Their postures are worrisome at this critical moment. Emoya, what are your thoughts as the older sister? Emoya directly picked up the phone and just gave a middle finger. Though Baiyu was unable to incite Emoya, she was so embarrassed that she couldn't stand still. She shrunk behind Shui Yuan and Clara's shoulders. Luonan knew that he absolutely could not answer, or else there would be no end to it. He learned from Emoya and rolled his eyes. He tapped his wristband, indicating that he had a call to answer. He squeezed out of the crowd and blocked the entrance to the elevator. He was rejoicing in his heart. Fortunately, Peony was communicating through a rubber band. He needed to transform on the mental plane. Otherwise, he would have leaked out everything with his troublesome method just now. Malu laughed with a hoarse voice. You don't need to stand guard at the entrance. We're a bunch of people squeezed in here. It's hard to get a pin inserted. Whoever comes over will have to obediently line up. Come over and chat with Uncle Ma for a bit. I'll teach you a few moves. A certain person forcefully raised his seniority, immediately drawing a wave of hisses. But the heat in the elevator was really stirred up. Perhaps this was a good sign for tonight's performance. Luonan ignored this group of people. He leaned against the door frame and downloaded information from the cloud space. He felt a silhouette approach him as he was operating. The silhouette leaned against his side, but the silhouette had no intention of communicating. Luonan turned his head to look and greeted politely, Sister Shui. The person who came over was the drummer of the Mountain Creek Band, Shui. She liked to use the Tesla coil to enhance her visual effects during her performance. She had the title of Electro Girl in the underground circles. As for whether this was a compliment or a derogatory one, it was up to the individual to decide. Shui crossed her arms over her chest. Her eyelids drooped, and she looked a bit sleepy. She was incompatible with the impassioned mood in the elevator, and she ignored Luonan. Luonan didn't find this strange. People who took drugs couldn't be judged by common sense. As long as this person didn't delay tonight's performance, it wouldn't be a problem. He went straight to look at the downloaded information. There were a total of 5 people, including the new monitoring targets from before. They were all around 20 years old. Looking at their respective social relations records, they were quite normal. They were about the same age as their peers. If Luonan were to ponder over the densely packed network of relationships by himself, he would probably die from a headache. Fortunately, Peony had already organized the information beforehand. She marked out the most crucial information. They are all paid VIPs of the Sky Street community, and they are all very active in the private section, Xing Meng, which requires referrals. Sky Street? Where have I heard of this name before? Luonan recalled as he looked at the annotations. Peony's description was on it. Sky Street, East Asia's largest information distribution center for the entertainment circle. Oh, it's that. Luonan suddenly understood. Wasn't this the gossip community that Baiyu had logged into when she searched for the latest news on Shiwei in the morning? But what was that Xingmeng section for? Professional questions needed to be consulted by professionals. And the person with the highest level of gossip was undoubtedly Baiyu. Luonan turned around and waved at Baiyu. However, he really looked down on the heckling ability of the other people present. Huang Xiangdong felt that he hadn't caused enough trouble earlier. He shouted loudly when he saw Luonan. Hold on. Nanster, who are you recruiting this time? It doesn't matter. Say it out loud. This place is chaotic. Manager Hai can't hear you clearly. Luonan couldn't say much under these circumstances. Baiyu didn't dare to stick her head out. She was embarrassed to the extreme. All right. Everyone calm down a bit. Hai Jing felt that if they continued to make a ruckus, something would happen. He forcefully interrupted them. He saw Luonan's helpless expression, so he asked casually, Nanster, is there something you need? Fine. Everyone present was a professional anyway. He just asked directly. A friend asked me to ask what the main purpose of the Sky Street community's Xingmeng section is. Can someone with the authority to say it? The elevator went strangely silent for a moment when these words were spoken. Chapter 470. Luonan knew that he must have said something wrong, but he didn't know where it was wrong. As he looked around, all he could see were the rock and roll fans whistling and laughing. Baiyu, Shui Yuan and Clara were all avoiding his sight. Emoya also stopped the communication, a helpless expression on her face. Oh, there was also Cat Eyes. She had a typical mocking expression on her face. It seemed that she also knew about the inner workings of the game. If he had known earlier, he would have asked her. Luonan wasn't an idiot. He knew from looking at the situation that the Xingmeng edition was most likely the route of, the noble circles are truly chaotic. Forget it, pretend I didn't ask. Malu laughed when he heard Luonan's words. He didn't continue to tangle with Luonan. Instead, he pointed at Emoya. Say, do you think your brother is pretending to be pure? Or really pure? Emoya would not answer such a retarded question. Okay. Who wants to dispel Luonan's doubts? Let's chat in private. Don't turn a deaf ear to my words. Hurry up and check your bags. If anyone dares to say that they're short weight, I'll make sure he or she works for the company for free for the next 2 years. Hai Jing finally brought out the cold-blooded style of a manager and forcefully controlled the situation. The two teams responded in a scattered manner. Luonan immediately sent a private message to Cat Eyes. Send me the relevant information. Don't worry, wait a few more minutes. Maybe some girl will edit it for you in private. Cut the crap. Alright, you are the boss. Actually, I don't know much about it. I only heard that the Star Dream version is actually the one-night stand version. The ones who are active in it are mostly flesh and blood. Occasionally, there will be some naive ones. Of course, the main selling point was the male and female celebrities. They solve their physiological needs, while the other side enjoys the halo of fame. Some professionals even earn some extra money. That's about it. This should be considered semi-public, right? That's what I want. All right. The general situation was pretty much the same as what Luonan had imagined. He didn't waste any more time, immediately contacting Peony and summarizing this matter. He also delivered his analysis. The 5 surveillance targets are all ordinary families. They should be fanatical fans or prey. If there really was an intersection on this page, then the intersection point should be a certain celebrity. This circle shouldn't be too big, so it shouldn't be a problem to find the source of the infection. Hey, are you listening? Luonan gazed at Peony through Ink's perspective. At this time, that person was sitting quietly in a high-altitude restaurant, overlooking the entire municipal square from the window. But Luonan didn't know why, but he felt that her eyes weren't quite focused. You were just flirting with your lover a moment ago, and now you want to break up? Just as Luonan was about to call out again, Peony raised her hand and lightly brushed away the messy hair on her forehead. Her long and slender fingers just happened to block Ink's line of sight, making it hard for Luo Nan to see clearly. After a brief second, Peony responded. No need to repeat yourself a second time. What you're saying is that someone with stage 2 or 3 infections is spreading the mutated virus through sex in a small circle. The straightforward and accurate description made Luo Nan a bit uncomfortable. But this little stimulation seemed to have stirred up a certain part of his brain, giving him some subtle and unclear feelings. Did I miss out on some information? Hey, are you listening? Peony flipped her hand and flicked her sword back. Her words were exactly the same as what Luo Nan had said before. Yes, I understand. All right, I'll get back to you as soon as possible. So that's it. Also, what's up? Peony cast her gaze outside the window. Her gaze just happened to meet Ink, who was hooked onto the windowsill. It was unknown when her eyes, which had been overflowing with light, had condensed once more. They were bright and clear. I wish you good luck, Mr. Partner. Thank you. Luo Nan's mind was filled with bewilderment. Fortunately, he had a clear direction of investigation no matter what. Even if part of the problem was solved, he still let out a breath of relief. The backup elevator had already hit the bottom and bounced back. The group of people were about to head backstage. But Luo Nan's mind was still undecided. He needed to ponder over how to deal with the gene dealer's challenge. Perhaps listening to the opinions of professionals and maintaining a distance from Moya would be a decent plan? Luo Nan noticed 2 rather unexpected characters walking over to the backup elevator just as he was thinking. Around 10 seconds passed before the wooden door to the fire escape opened. 2 people walked in one after the other. People subconsciously looked over at the elevator, and many people's nerves instantly tensed up. Director Wu. The person who came over was the highest leader of Mingtang culture here, Director Wu Qingze of the artist department. Behind him was the second in command here, Haijing's immediate superior, Director Xia. Wu Qingze was also an acquaintance. Most people never expected that the big boss of the company would suddenly arrive. This was a true big boss, the kind that concerned everyone's jobs. Hello, Director Wu. Hello, Director Xia. Everyone saluted one after another. Even the normally arrogant and unruly members of the Mountain Creek Band had to put on a superficial act. Luo Nan didn't care. He just followed the crowd and lowered his head. But Director Xia, who had just passed by him, instinctively returned the salute when he saw Luo Nan like this. He nearly bent his back. Luckily, not many people noticed. Director Wu noticed that the composition of the people here was quite complicated, but their attitudes were quite amiable. He immediately found Cat Eyes. He nodded with a smile. Teacher Cat Eyes has come personally. Thank you very much. Of course, he didn't overlook the uniformed god. When he found out that it was the building's management, he greeted Assistant Meng rather politely. In the end, he greeted Assistant Meng out of respect for Shi Wei. As for Yu Qin, she was quite close with the BHD group. She was also young, so Director Wu ignored her. No matter what kind of attitude he had, the entire elevator room underwent a transformation with him standing there. The originally chaotic concept of hierarchy suddenly became clear. Under this subtle force, the person with the highest status undoubtedly enjoyed the position closest to the elevator door. Director Wu was unobstructed all the way to the very front. Director Xia and Haijing stood to his left and right, talking about the progress of their work and so on. As for the others, they mostly used eye contact in place of verbal communication. They would only raise their hands to cover their mouths and whisper to each other intermittently. No matter what, they were unable to return to the atmosphere from earlier. Luo Nan used his all-encompassing mental senses to take in everyone's expressions. He found the subtle psychological changes quite interesting. But soon, he felt the gazes of others observing him. Luo Nan raised his head and discovered that God was looking at him with a subtle expression. Cat Eyes was even whispering to him. Look, it's quite abnormal, right? What are you chattering about behind my back? We're talking about how we can serve you, boss. Speaking of which, on one side you're the boss, enjoying star service. On the other side you're the little brother, bowing and scraping to others. How do you switch between these two modes at will? Are you schizophrenic? Or are you role-playing? Aren't you having fun? Luo Nan was speechless. The two circles were different. One was another. This was very normal. How was he schizophrenic? Sure enough, most patients are unconscious. What do you think, God? God didn't want to get involved in this matter, but he hesitated for a moment due to professional considerations. He still communicated through the psychic wave network. Mr. Luo, it's best if we completely control the situation. Don't let any unexpected situations occur. Before he could finish speaking, a new situation really did occur. Oh my, there are a lot of people here. Luckily, there are even more beauties. There was only one person on this floor who could be so pompous and frivolous. 2 seconds later, He Donglu entered the elevator with a swagger. Old Si followed beside him. This young master, who the vast majority of people were unfamiliar with, entered. Admittedly, he was quite eye-catching, but the vast majority of people were peeking at the number of people the elevator was carrying. It looked like this wave really couldn't go down. Bai Yu and Clara were quite alarmed. Could they really be jinxed? In front of the elevator, Director Wu's face sank for a moment. Clearly, his impression of He Donglu was limited. Depending on one's position, one's standpoint would also be different. From the perspective of Director Xia, being able to use the company's resources to exchange for personal benefits was already the most ideal situation. But from Director Wu's perspective, the entire artiste department was his private plot. He absolutely didn't want a bird to steal food from it. It was just that this bird was an eagle and had a powerful background. He absolutely couldn't afford to offend him, so he could only pretend not to see him. Everyone would be quite embarrassed when encountering this sort of chance encounter situation. Director Wu adjusted his mentality a bit, and a smile reappeared on his face. He turned around and took the initiative to greet He Donglu. Young Master He, it's been a while. He Donglu walked straight to the elevator door with Old Si clearing the way. He responded with a chuckle. Everyone's busy. Director Wu, you're constantly pushing out good works. As for me, I'm a loyal customer. We still have a tacit understanding. As he spoke, he turned around and swept his gaze over the faces of the few beauties present. He even winked. Most people would treat this micro-expression as a playboy's casual flirtation, but Luo Nan noticed who he was winking at. Shui. Shui leaned in the corner with her arms crossed. Her expression was cold, but her slightly accelerated heartbeat and breathing proved that her mood was far from as tranquil as it appeared on the outside. Could it be that she had been flirted with? Director Wu glanced at the crowd and slightly furrowed his brows. Suddenly he said to Hai Jing, "How about this? Little Hai, bring someone with you to check every room on this floor. See if you left anything behind, especially personal items and sensitive items. Let's not give the property management any trouble. And let's not give the paparazzi a chance to make a fuss." Hai Jing was a bit startled, but he quickly complied. Most people understood clearly in their hearts that Director Wu's move was a model example of using a fuss to make a fuss. In the end, this was just assigning the authority to get on the elevator. As for who Hai Jing would take away, one didn't need to use their knees to think to know. Luo Nan immediately suffered over a dozen gazes sweeping over him. Hai Jing's gaze fell on Luo Nan's face, giving him a slight hint. God and Cat Eyes both frowned. This was an unexpected situation. He Donglu had finally discovered Luo Nan. Or it could be said that he had found an opportunity to discover Luo Nan. He laughed more and more happily. Director Wu's thoughts are thorough. "Oh right, you over there. Go to Shi Wei's room and get me 2 pieces of that unfinished snack. Hurry up. I'll be on the car in a bit. If you really can't do it, I'll run down the stairs." Luo Nan was truly speechless. Surnamed He, you're crazy. Director Wu felt He Donglu's targeting. He was stunned for a moment when Director Xia jumped out from the side. He displayed outstanding initiative. "I'll go with Hai Jing. It'll be a bit more convenient this way." "Oh." Surnamed Xia was already kneeling behind He Donglu's back. He Donglu raised his eyebrows, but he didn't lose the opportunity to ridicule Luo Nan that easily. "Okay. Then little brother, just make a trip for me. Run a bit faster. Maybe you can make it to the elevator. Before he could finish speaking, the jumping numbers on the panel of the elevator fixed. After a long back and forth, the elevator finally got into position, and an electronic sound rang out. Director Wu, who was in front of the door, didn't think too much after receiving this prompt. In any case, the youngster He Donglu had his eyes on probably wouldn't have a good time. He wasn't willing to get involved, so he waved his hand at Director Xia. Hurry up and do it. He locked gazes with He Donglu as he finished speaking. They revealed smiles at the same time, switching to the social script. He Donglu seized the initiative. Director Wu, please. Young Master He, please. Director Wu, you're the host. You. Or is it Young Master He? Young Master He? The metal door closed to the side. It was like a flipped script that stretched the camera, causing the scene of the elevator room and the elevator car to blend together. Chapter 471. The reason why the person in the elevator car was said to be a professional woman was because of the strong impression her clothing gave. She wore a light gray slim-fit short suit and straight pants of the same color. She wore a slightly conservative black high heel. Every detail indicated her identity. The only thing that stood out was probably the silver-gray metal case she carried in her right hand. However, compared to her clothing, that extremely sculpted face was perhaps the best match. The calmer she was, the more a chill naturally seeped through. It made people feel that she should have an extremely serious personality. It was precisely this first impression, perhaps in addition to her tall and slender figure, that effectively strengthened her aura. Furthermore, there was a dense mass of people outside the elevator. She was alone, yet she didn't make any unnecessary subconscious movements. She stood steadily in the car, and didn't even have the intention of walking out. She only used her bright and sharp eyes to sweep across everyone's faces. Wow, a hardcore. As an assault bassist, Huang Xiangdong immediately felt that this was a rarely seen and challenging type. He subconsciously sighed. However, as soon as he spoke, he discovered that his voice was unusually loud. In fact, the ambient noise had suddenly been lowered, vividly setting off his idiotic moment. Huang Xiangdong hurriedly shut his mouth. As his voice faded away and lacked a follow-up, some kind of silent power surged out like a formless dark cloud, instantly covering the entire elevator. In that instant, the whispers that even Director Wu couldn't avoid after coming over were completely erased. Director Wu, who was standing at the very front, was a little stupefied. Silence made people even more sensitive. In this strange silence, he suddenly discovered that there was a problem with his own reaction. He didn't know when, but he had turned his face to avoid the professional woman's gaze. Also, his body had moved to the side. He was an executive of Mingtang culture. The 56th floor was his company's exclusive floor. He was undoubtedly the head of this place. But what he felt right now was like 2 years ago, when he had welcomed Madame Halder from the Castle Financial Group. That cold capital tycoon, facing a group of overly enthusiastic and noisy company executives, had used only his eyes to shut everyone up. What the hell am I thinking? Director Wu suddenly snapped out of his daze. He felt that his current reaction was mysteriously awkward. Actually, I'm abiding by the rules of ladies first and first down, first up, right? Right. He subconsciously shot a glance at He Donglu. This young man was still blocking the entrance of the elevator. He looked even calmer. But what was with the abrupt interruption just now and the shrinking of his shoulders and chest now? Inside the elevator, the professional woman's gaze also fell on He Donglu's body, but also somewhat deviated. Before he could figure out where the focal point was, he heard an electronic beep. It was the beep of a different elevator, followed by a bang. Old C, who had been silently standing at He Donglu's side, first lowered his head to look at his wristband. Immediately after, his figure reflexively straightened. He forcefully pressed his legs together, and his heels touched. Reserve Lieutenant C. Guosheng of the 7th Coastal Special Warfare Brigade. The short and forceful sound of the army broke through the pressure of silence, yet it also completely changed the nature of this place. However, the people involved felt that it was only natural. 2nd Airspace Special Warfare Brigade Reserve Officer He Yuan. As a professional woman, He Yuan, she didn't need to change her posture. Her posture was the most standard. She looked at Si Guosheng and replied simply, "Please return to the team." Old Si shouted, "Yes," and immediately raised his hand in salute. Soon after, he walked into the elevator with large strides. He arrived at the elevator control panel in front of He Yuan and stood still. He crossed his legs and rested for a moment like a door god. Only now did he slightly nod towards He Donglu. Then he completely restored his cold and hard military demeanor. His own bodyguard had been pulled away with a beep? Did he think this was a swipe of a card? He Donglu had roamed the world of hedonists for 20 years. Yet he had never seen or even thought of such a situation. He stood there in a daze. He didn't respond to Old Si's signal. However, he didn't remain in a daze for long. The continuous changes finally broke the nearly frozen atmosphere in the surroundings. A slight commotion began outside the elevator. Since up until now, it didn't have much to do with them, the surrounding people couldn't help but paint all sorts of colors in their eyes. They used different angles to observe or exchange their own thoughts with their companions. Whispers rang out again. He Donglu stood at the very front, his back facing everything. He truly experienced what it meant to feel like there was a blade on one's back. If today's matter were to spread out, He Donglu would achieve the achievement of being a 10,000-year laughingstock in social circles in minutes. Really Motherf***. Motherf***. Awkward and absurd emotions finally took form and rapidly gushed out. He faced one of the most fearful gazes in his life and roared involuntarily. "Sis, what are you doing?" He Yuan didn't pay any attention to him. Her gaze shifted once more, piercing into the crowd outside. With He Donglu, the sacrificial victim, in front of her, no one dared to look her in the eye. Most people even learned from Director Wu, moving sideways one after another to avoid the frontal assault. They unconsciously opened up a passageway leading outside. The problem was that He Yuan didn't seem to have any intention of coming out. She just stared at the fixed target behind the crowd until their gazes met. He Donglu felt like he was about to explode. What was hateful was that even so, he was like a marionette. He involuntarily followed He Yuan's gaze and looked behind her. Then he saw a young, wooden face. F***ck. Frankly speaking, Luo Nan was a bit stupefied when he saw He Yuan appear in the elevator. But then the other side directly recruited Old Si. Outsiders were muddle-headed, but he, Cat Eyes and Gouda, who were directly involved, had clear minds. The situation had escalated, and it was extremely serious. Otherwise, with the resources of the society, how could they possibly find external help at the last minute? So when He Yuan cast her gaze over, Luo Nan instantly understood her intentions. It was time to get down to business. Luo Nan should have responded, but the moment the situation came to a head, he felt the blood squeezed out of his heart. It was as if it carried an electric current, so much so that his body was paralyzed. Correspondingly, countless electrical signals and chemical signals were transmitted and changed within the neural network. When these complex and subtle stimuli were integrated, they formed a relatively clear emotional color. Among them, the majority were actually restlessness and resistance. So Luo Nan didn't achieve an instant reaction like Old Si. Instead, he maintained his silence. Cat Eyes and Gouda seemed to be a bit surprised by this. They both turned their gazes over. Luo Nan's facial expression didn't show, but the more gazes focused on him, the more intense the agitation in his heart became. This is embarrassing. What are you afraid of? Is there something here that you're afraid of? Actually, there wasn't. If there was something, it wouldn't be any substance. It would be some sort of metaphysical thing. Luo Nan's attention shifted slightly to where Moya was. Even without using his eyes to observe, he knew that his older sister was observing He Yuan. She was quite interested, following He Yuan's line of sight in search of the next explosive target. She treated herself as a spectator, but she didn't know that there was a close relationship between the newcomer and her cousin. Originally, the two circles didn't intersect. Or it could be said that Luo Nan had always been careful to maintain the distance between the two circles. But at this moment, because of this sudden incident, the inner world and the original social circle came into direct contact, silently intersecting. Only then did Luo Nan suddenly discover that there clearly existed some sort of irreconcilable conflict between the two. This conflict was precisely the source of Luo Nan's fear. There should be a deeper meaning to this, but Luo Nan was unable to make sense of it in a short amount of time. He only knew that he had to make a choice. It wasn't up to his heart. He had to consider many things. Since this was the case, the answer was actually placed right before his eyes. Perhaps the moment He Yuan opened her mouth was the beginning of the collapse of the rhythm of life that he worked so hard to maintain. Luo Nan couldn't refuse, but he also wasn't willing to take the initiative to break it. He could only listen to the arrangements of fate. Outside the elevator door, He Donglu had enough of this treatment of being completely ignored. He turned his face to face He Yuan. He was so angry that his hands were already trembling a bit. You really think of yourself as a secretary? I'm your little brother. Excuse me. Ha. He Yuan's eyelids were slightly drooping in the elevator car. She temporarily cut off the gaze that had a clear direction. When she opened her eyes again, she walked straight outside, pushing aside a close blood relative who was blocking her way. Oldsi followed in silence. He Donglu staggered outside, and the people behind him split open like waves, causing the already faintly forming passageway to become even wider. As for the end of the passageway, it was still a bit blocked. Luo Nan was right there. He Yuan walked past Director Wu's position in 2 steps. Her feet didn't stop as she quickly gave instructions. The security bureau is working. Send 2 people from your company to follow. If there's anything you need, please cooperate. Damn. I finally understand what's going on. Director Wu still had a bit of doubt in his heart, but young master, he had called her sister twice. Even if he had doubts, he had to suppress them. He faced He Yuan's back and said, okay. Then he was a bit hesitant. Who should I leave? Director Xia had a flash of inspiration at this time. He volunteered once more. Director, I'll bring someone with me. That's fine. Talk less and do more. Keep in touch at all times. Director Wu's head was swollen from the series of matters. He also knew that this matter was related to the Security Bureau, and that it was best not to blindly meddle with it. He was disinclined to think too much, so he agreed to Director Xia's suggestion. Then little Luo, follow me. Director Xia's gaze drifted over to Luo Nan as he spoke. He saw that Luo Nan's reaction was calm, and he knew that he had gambled correctly. He clenched his fist in secret. He Yuan just happened to brush past Luo Nan at this time. Gauda reacted quickly. I'm the building's property manager. Follow me. He Yuan nodded imperceptibly as she spoke. In fact, she was pointing at Luo Nan. Luo Nan let out a sigh of relief. He even had the time to give Amoya a reassuring gesture before turning around to follow. Right after he turned around, his face inexplicably heated up. He Yuan led the group of people through the safety passageway very quickly, disappearing from everyone else's line of sight. Most of the people in the elevator were still in a daze. Cat Eyes leaned against the door frame and scratched her chin. Hey, the reasons are so abundant. What should I do? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.